Hello, everyone. Yes, a primer. The first 15-ish minutes of this episode are going to sound worse than usual. We were recording happily, as always, and then suddenly Rage noticed that he was recording the wrong microphone and that his audio was practically inaudible. So we're using the Skype backup recording for the first 15 minutes of the episode. Then after that, the audio quality will resume its normal levels of happiness. So, thanks everybody for your patience, and here's the show. Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on August the 15th, 2017. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, the second most disgusting human being on the planet.
Gee, thanks. Caffeine rage.
On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the mini-games that we've played. The indie games are too damn cheap. For Honor Tournament is rife with bugs and exploits. The Steam group invite changes have been revealed. Battle.net is back. We'll have our weekly community corner and our Steam weekly discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics this week because I won't forget because I'm not exhausted. Rage, I interrupted you because I was moving on to the topics. I do apologize. How are you, and what was the sentence you were about to say?
Well, I was saying in theory on that because that does require you to remember. And whenever you don't do the show notes, I don't bother because usually I'm setting it up early in the morning and I can't be asked. So yeah, I have that going for me.
Yeah, I've got a pretty good track record for not forgetting. I mean, I have a few times, but
it's just more, loaded up the show notes to format them for general consumption because our show notes are not exactly the prettiest. I mean, pretty much the first few episodes of VGL was you copying and pasting our show notes.
Yeah.
And you saw how quickly I took that over to make them actually presentable. But, yeah, whenever the timestamps are for me, I don't bother hunting them down because, it's actually a pain in the ass to do so post-editing.
It is. It's really easy when you're editing to do a quick pat. Like, I make notes as I go on exactly the times once the initial edit pass goes through, and then after truncating silences and things, you go back. They're all really close to find right there. But last week, I mean, I was exhausted, and I edited the show Wednesday night after we finished recording, and I'm pretty sure I was like, I will deal with finding these timestamps tomorrow. The show's pretty short; it won't be that bad, and then just forgot.
Yeah, and then I loaded up, Thursday night, Friday morning. Ooh, okay, well, I'm sure there's going to be at least someone upset about this.
Yeah, that'll be fine. It was a short show last week. We didn't even make it to an hour and a half for a normal recording, so it's fine.
Yeah, but that's why we're padding out this week. I mean, we're almost at the 5-minute mark on my recording, and we haven't even gone into, Rage, what have you played this week?
That is very true, and that would be a good transition, but I'm not going to let it happen because I'm going to get my thought out. I love that what we're calling a short episode is still longer than most podcasts' episode links. It's like, our episode was only an hour and 20 minutes this week. And most other shows are like, fuck off. We're doing good if we hit 45 minutes.
Yeah, honestly, a couple of the longer shows I used to listen to have cut their episode lengths way down.
Yeah. Yeah, my
And also, I listened to my podcast at about 1 1/4 speed. But I also have just a tempo increase and not just flat speed increase, so that not everyone sounds like chipmunks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, if people can, like, I envy people who can do that. I can't stand listening to it at a faster speed. It just bugs me to listen to stuff faster. I can't do it with audiobooks. I can't do it with podcasts. So
past 1.25 is my max. I can't do that. A 25% increase is enough where the pauses between one word and the next are just shrunk just enough where it still sounds very natural. And yes, I did do a intentional Shatner pause there.
It's fine. Truncate silence will probably grab it and shorten it. I mean, I used to not do that, but at this point I just run a blanket truncate silence over the whole episode. I've refined it so that it doesn't mess things up.
In theory.
Through trial and error, of course. I mean, where it's fucked up, I've just left it.
Because otherwise your almighty editor powers would be overestimated.
Yeah. But, yeah. My two of my favorite podcasts are Co-Optional and the Sincast. And I mean, Co-Optional is regularly right at the 3-hour mark, and Sincast is between 2 and 3 hours every week, except when they do their specific like movie reviews, and those are only like an hour. But I like long form content too, so that's one of the reasons why we produce long form content.
Yeah, well, let's put it this way. Well, the two gaming podcasts I listen to are Co-Optional and Creating Crowbar, both of which are extremely long. As a matter of fact, Creating Crowbar, well, this is probably not a fair one because this is episode 200 on my playlist, is at 199 minutes.
Nice. So it's just north of 3 hours.
Yeah.
3 1/3 hours.
Yeah, so we have the bar. We must surpass them. Then we work on quality. Oh, wait, that seems like it's backwards.
They've got a crowbar. We'll get a pry bar. Yeah. Well.
But now we probably lost groove because Kraid. Oh well.
He's gonna go sit inside of it.
Maybe that's why they did the crowbar, to get him out of it. Get out of our crate. No.
You can't make me. That's a weird little blip on the waveform. I just pulled my chain down to turn on my little desk lamp, and it just made it weird spiky on the waveform. Probably no one would have noticed because, noise reduction and noise gating would have fixed it, but now everybody will be looking for the little clicky sound.
Yes, everyone will open up this file in Audacity and look for that particular
look at the
waveform.
Specifically look for that. Five bonus points to anyone who finds it and clips it out and sends it back to me.
Or are you going to send them a Steam Trading Card?
Nah, the points don't matter.
Easy there, Drew.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about some things that do matter, which are video games. Yeah. So this week, because we have...
You have a couple major games to talk about, and, I have a lot of games to talk about, but they're all small.
Right. Well, I mean, my list is pretty lengthy, too, but yeah. We're going to alternate this week, and I'm going to actually lead this time, because we're going to talk about No Man's Sky.
Yeah,
guys.
Just don't step on my toes, please.
I'm a really bad dancer, to be honest. Like, I got okay at swing dancing at one point, but every other type of dancing Kitty and I have ever tried to do, I'm stepping all over her.
Poor Katie.
I don't even have 2 left feet. I've just got like 2 big lumps of concrete and lead in place of where my feet should be.
Oh, Italian ballroom dancing.
They're real bad for dancing. But anyways, so yeah, No Man's Sky. Hell's gonna freeze over, or it already has, guys, because No Man's Sky is good now. And
I'm scared.
And listen, I know that I've got the reputation on the show for being like, haha, I like this game because it's kind of dumb, or like silly, or shitty. So I want to preface this. This game is genuinely good now.
By Jared's standards.
No, not even by my standards. It is a genuinely good game now. Hello Games actually has put in a lot of work and effort.
I do have to give them credit that they could have easily just took the money and ran.
Yeah.
And I think most companies would have. It doesn't make me forgive them for all the PR bullshit, all the hype bullshit, all the blatant lying, and Sean Murray disappearing to snort coke off the snatch of hookers. Or off the taint, sorry. I have to do that properly.
Right. Now, I'm not saying that this game is perfect, and I'm not saying that everything that at some point they mentioned would be in the game is in the game yet. Both of those things are false. The game still has some flaws, and it's still missing many... Well, I don't know what the chart looks like now, but, I mean, there's still several things that I know are not in the game that were promised at one point or another. And the difficult thing about that is, you know, he said so many different things to so many different people. Like, it's hard to know what was actually on the docket versus what wasn't.
If he was telling more lies, we would have to elect him to office.
Hi-yo. Man, life was simpler a year ago when No Man's Sky... when No Man's Sky was the worst thing around. Like, I want to go back to that.
Yeah, now we're just left with Battleborn and Evolve, and I guess in about 2 or 3 months we could add Lawbreakers to the flop list.
Yeah.
Because that launched outside the Steam Top 100 and has about 1,000 players, give or take, which is a little disappointing because it seemed like it actually had some interesting things about it.
Yeah.
But at least we still have 2 Whipping Boys.
Yeah. But, so yeah, No Man's Sky has fixed pretty much every issue that I had with the game. The flight controls, if you're using a mouse and keyboard, are still garbage. They're still very floaty and non-responsive. But other than that...
Yeah, but why are you in the sky anywhere? It belongs to no man.
I am no man. But other than that, I don't have any more major...
I assumed your gender.
I don't have any more major complaints with it. So things that they've added, specifically in the most recent update, which is called the Atlas update, they have completely revamped the story, like the main story, like lore progression, and have made it much easier to get to and get through. And you now have a constant Atlas path marker on your map, even if you choose to ignore it and go about just exploring the universe, that you can just reselect the path and it'll take you back to where you are going to continue progressing to the center of the universe. They've added like some real story elements and things to the game. I don't exactly know what those are because I'm basically just off doing my own thing because I don't really give a shit.
What, you're over somewhere shooting a rock with a mining laser? I would have never guessed that.
Oh yeah, all the rocks, baby. But they've added additional side stories as well that you can go through and do. They've added a mission system which allows you to have another way to earn money and certain specific items. They've added guilds that you can level up in, which give you special missions and items. And those are tied to the milestone system. So, like, mine...
Jared, we're going to have a pause here.
Okay. All right, and we're back from a little interlude. There was...
Technical problems.
We had technical problems, but we've got it all sorted out now. And...
Yeah, Audacity decided to be a pain in the ass for me this week.
Yeah, I'll put a primer in front of the episode that just says, hey, this happened. So the first 15 minutes or so are going to be a little off. The Skype recorder's quality is not quite as good, but, I mean, it's
and you'll
right
also
there
hear
on par.
a distinct change in my voice from my post-editing and actually cleaning it up to whatever the Skype recorder picks up.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, I was sitting here trying to figure out, why is my microphone so quiet? And then I realized, it's recording the wrong microphone. This is the problem with recording, is that typically you have more than one microphone, especially if you have a headset.
Yeah. So, anyways, I had just kind of wrapped up talking about the mission system.
Yeah.
And was about to start talking about other things, the guilds. So yes, they now have guilds which are tied into the milestone system, and mine 10,000 minerals and you'll get a milestone for mining. And the more milestones you get, the higher up you get in the guild rankings, which awards you special bonuses and like stat boost type bonuses, and then eventually you can unlock special missions that you can complete that give you special equipment or technology.
So what guilds are there? I mean, do you have to just randomly murder a sentient life form to be able to be invited to one, or?
No, there's the Explorers Guild, the Miners Guild, and the Traders Guild. And all combat falls under the Explorers Guild. So there's actually milestones for attacking and killing sentinels and indigenous wildlife. There's also missions that involve just randomly killing indigenous wildlife. So that's fun. They've done a lot of revamping and rebalancing in the Atlas update as well. So the first update was the... what do they call it? The Foundations update, which added base building. The second update was the Pathfinder update, which added ground exploration vehicles and then added some extra things to the base building. And then this update has been story additions and game balancing mode, or game balancing. So one of the big problems that happened as well in the previous iterations of the game was that you could wind up stranded on a planet because you would run out of warp fuel or run out of a specific mineral that you needed, either
or they
plutonium,
add the fuel rats,
either plutonium or thamium-9 to power your jump drive or your like launch thrusters. But now they've added a number of ways to ensure that you can always at least find whatever you need to jump out of a system or get off of a planet. They've added a lot more plutonium to the seeds, so there's not big deposits, but it's much easier to find enough plutonium to at least get your ship off the ground so you can fly to a space station or something and restock or search for better resources on the ground. They've also added, as part of the mission system, every single, well, not every, but at least one mission out of every lineup that is given to you by one of the mission quest giver people will give you warp fuel, so that if you can't get out of a system, you can't find what you need, you can at least go run a quick mission and get a warp fuel so that you can jump to another system. So that's nice. It's pretty much impossible to get stranded now.
That sounds like a challenge.
I mean, I'm sure you could probably find a way, but at the very least, you might have to do a little bit of work to get whatever it is that you need, but nothing more than like 15 or 20 minutes worth. The missions are fairly quick. There's only a few that are really long. And they have appropriate payouts, but that's not the mission that you want to do to get your warp fuel, so that's safe for the lower level. Like, hey, run item A to place B, or go shoot down this ship, or whatever. So the quest system is nice.
Bear asses. Oh, sorry, space bear asses.
They've revamped the base building as well now. So one of the issues that I had with the base building update is it's like, great, I can start building my base, but now I have to go get all these people and travel around the galaxy to find them. But now you're guaranteed to get all of the major components of your base from any space station in any system. So you don't have to go wandering around looking for the specific experts or specialists that you need to unlock all of the stuff at your base. You just run a series of missions that takes maybe an hour to do all the missions, and you get all the key staff of your base. The like super specialist, like high-end things, you have to go hunt for those, but none of the important stuff is locked behind, well, I guess I'm going to have to jump for 10 systems to find a station that has this specific alien race at it. They've revamped the procedural generation for planets, and they completely reseeded the entire galaxy, or all of their galaxies. So now planets have multiple biomes. I mean, not always. You can still find single biome planets, but before it was impossible to find multiple biome planets, and now
that's really boring.
Yeah, so now they're pretty common. The planet that I've made my home base, at least for now, is primarily a tundra, but around the equator, because it's close enough to the sun or something, I don't know, it's more tropical. So out at the poles, and it's like a frigid wasteland, and then tundra up until you get to around the equator. So it's simple things like that make the planets a lot more interesting and more fun to explore. They've revamped all of the ships, like all of it before, even up until the last update, because I did do some research on the Pathfinder update just to make sure I knew what came out during which update to the game. They actually have added ship classes now. So there's ship types and classes. Before it was just cosmetic, and all that mattered were the amount of slots in your ship. The more slots you had, the more stuff you could put. But now ships both have what are known as tech slots that you can put equipment and upgrades in, so that all of your sort of standard slots can be used for inventory. And now there are different classes that actually give meaningful boosts and have very distinct attributes to them. So, for example, there's the fighter, which has sort of a balanced amount of tech slots and general slots, but it has higher stats for speed and maneuverability, and it gets a boost to all weapons attack power. There's the explorer class, which has extra tech slots, so that you can put multiple drive updates or upgrades in it, so that you could, for example, go faster or jump farther for each use of hyperdrive fuel. But it has less general slots for cargo inventory. There's a freighter, or not a freighter, a hauler ship, which has the most standard slots, but it has fewer tech slots because it's this is a trade vessel, so you're not really doing too much crazy stuff. And then it gets buffs for what does it get a buff in? I think it gets a buff in hyperdrive as well, so you can jump farther using hyperdrive fuel. And then there's the shuttle, which is like an all-around average vessel,
Then it gets decommissioned, and we have to rely on the Russians to get our astronauts into space.
Yeah, the Russians or Elon Musk.
Oh, we're not quite there with Musk.
But anyways, they also have now exotic class ships, which have been a whole bunch found, and I actually found one too. And they're like super extreme versions of those ships. Like, I found an exotic explorer type ship, and it only had 4 cargo slots, but it got like a 200% boost to hyperdrive range, and like 100% boost to weapons damage and speed and maneuverability. And it had like 20 tech slots. It was crazy. I basically, I found it crashed on a planet. I fixed it up and then turned around and sold it because it was worth a shit ton of money, and just bought like a hauler. And I'm saving up for a freighter. They rebalance freighters. The freighters are a lot more useful now.
The freighter sets essentially the bubble pace, right?
Yeah, they rebalanced those. They made them a lot more useful. They give you a lot more storage capacity with them, and they can jump a lot farther by default, but they're now a lot more expensive. Trying to think of other things. I haven't seen any performance issues. They had done a lot of fixing performance issues anyways.
Yeah, I just remember Total Biscuit's launch stream of it, and he was just getting more and more frustrated with the performance until he just rage quitted.
Yeah, I haven't seen any performance issues now this go around, and I still had a couple when the Foundations update was released. I had like this weird flickering that would happen sometimes in space stations, but so far I haven't seen any of that, and I played it for about 12 hours this weekend. So, I mean, in a game that big, there's always a chance to find bugs, but so far I haven't found any. So that's nice. I love the exocraft. Base building is so much fun. It adds a whole bunch of missions for you to do, which are new rewards and things, but it makes exploring planets feel a lot more meaningful, because you feel like you have a stake in them, and the different vehicles that you have to explore on the ground are actually quite useful. They're obviously slower than your ship, but faster than being on foot, but they're a lot more efficient in terms of fuel and energy usage, and they have just as much cargo as most of your standard ships. There's basically 3 different ones. There's a light, fast one, like a all-rounder, and then a big but slower one. They're good for combat, exploring, and mining. There's a lot more specific and special resources around now, too, that require you to get special equipment. Nothing that was in the game before requires special equipment. It's all stuff that's been added. So there's nothing holding you back from the original way of playing, just exploring around. But if you want to get into base building and stuff, eventually you'll need to get the special equipment that lets you get the special resources. The base building mechanic is pretty simple, but in terms of construction, you can do a few decent things with it, but it's not like Minecraft levels of whatever. It's more like Lego. You've got these pieces that you can assemble into a thing. Actually, Lego's a bad example because you can do anything you want with Lego.
Well, I thought they just sold it as specific models now, and you're not allowed to build anything else except for that one thing. Isn't that how Lego's business model has kind of moved to just models in general, or model sets?
Yeah, well, I was thinking like follow the instructions. I mean, you can build some crazy stuff if you really, really mess with the system.
Yeah, but let's put it this way: nobody's buying the $100 and some Saturn V rocket to build something else out of it.
Yeah. I mean, basically, you're expected to stick to the instructions. I mean, you can kind of freeform build your base, but they all tend to have a similar structure, and it's like, here's what you need in order to do this, and in order to do that.
So, in other words, I think we could boil this down to a single sentence. This game has become digital crack for you. It's become just what you wanted.
Pretty much.
So it also
general,
turns out that everyone is just floating little balls of energy as well. Because remember, you were the only way you would be able to see what your character looked like was to find someone else. And how about that? They're all little balls of energy.
Yeah, they've added multiplayer. You can
rudimentary multiplayer. Supposedly they're going to be adding more to it.
Yeah, you can link up with up to 16 players and just explore around together. But
there's no point.
There's no point really, other than to just be like, hey, come check out this thing that I see over here. There's not really any interaction aside from just being able to chat with people within your like sphere.
And you can't even see what ship they're in. They're literally just different colors, balls of energy.
Yeah. But I mean, I didn't buy this. I was never intending to have this as a multiplayer experience. And there are much, much better multiplayer games that do this sort of thing out there.
Terraria.
Yeah. Hell, Minecraft.
Well, I was thinking just Terraria actually has more gameplay to it than just build something and that's about it.
Yeah. For people who don't like this sort of game, who don't, exploration, survival, crafting, building, like if you don't like that kind of game, this update did not make this game something that you would want to buy.
Which I think that's probably, well, not probably, I mean, that's just how they marketed the game in general was that it was literally everything for everyone.
Right.
And that is just mind-bogglingly stupid. On both the fact that there's at least a certain subset of players that bought into that, and the fact that they were doing it in the first place.
Yeah. I mean, this did not do that. It didn't even come close. Even the stuff that they added to make being someone who's more of a pirate or a combat type person, like, the combat systems are still very rudimentary. Even if you're... Supposedly, the flight controls are fine with the controller, but the rest of the game sucks with the controller, so I just deal with the shitty flight controls, because I don't really get into combat anyways. But the improvements that they made to combat don't really make this a dynamic combat game. I mean, if you want dynamic space combat, go play Elite Dangerous or Star Citizen or something like that. They didn't make it into that kind of game. But if you are the sort of person who likes survival, crafting, exploring in a sci-fi universe, No Man's Sky is now a perfectly viable game to do that in. It's no longer a broken piece of shit. It feels like what you do, at least in the world, matters. In that way that only people who are like me and understand this, like, enjoy this sort of experience, get. It's a pleasurable experience. I feel like what I'm doing, I'm progressing towards something that's meaningful in game. I don't feel like I'm wasting my time, and it's still a very pretty screenshot generator, so you get a lot of nice vistas to look at.
Well, my major question about it is gameplay-wise. Have they ever fixed the inventory management where a lot of your tech upgrades took up your rather limited inventory in general?
Yeah, they did that. There's a couple of ways to do it now. So on your exosuit, you now have these things called cargo slots. So you've got regular slots, you've got tech slots, and you've got cargo slots. The The regular slots and the tech slots function exactly the same as they do on your ship, but the cargo slots function as places where you can stack any type of inventory in your suit that you're carrying on your person. And then all ships and vehicles, like land vehicles, everything stacks in those slots. And like tech upgrades and equipment and stuff have smaller stacks than like minerals, but they still stack. So
okay, I just remember when the game originally came out, you were stuck with this many inventory slots, but your tech upgrades also took those slots.
Right. Well, now the tech
was
upgrades,
just stupid.
It was, and now that everything has a tech space where you can put your tech upgrades in, and they don't affect your normal inventory slots. And then specifically, your suit has got cargo slots that now can have larger stacks of normal items, and then the items that wouldn't have stacked before, they now stack inside the cargo slots. There's still some fiddliness to it, but it does alleviate a lot of the issues, because you're not, at least as far as I've gotten so far, you're not needing to carry around 50 or 100 like shielding shards, for example, which automatically refill your entire shield on your suit. Like, you need like 1 or 2 of those at best, unless you're trying to do some kind of extreme exploration challenge or something like that, because you're never far enough away from
sponsored by Red Bull.
You're never far enough away from your craft that you can't just hop in and let your shield recharge naturally in a safe environment. Because when you're inside your ship or any of the land vehicles, you're protected and your shields recharge, for example, and your life support and stuff. So it's not really that big of an issue. I haven't tried the new, like the hardcore survival mode. It might be different there, but for just normal play, it's they fixed it enough. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and now I'm just imagining the extreme challenge mode. You get out of your ship and you drink a Red Bull and you put the can back in.
Smash the can against your faceplate.
Well, you can't do that because that breaks your faceplate, and then you have to have duct tape to fix it. Mark Watney, signs the shit out of it.
Yeah. So, do you have any other questions? Anything
really?
that I missed?
I think you've covered it quite thoroughly.
Yeah. I if the game had released in this state, some people would have definitely picked apart the issues that they have, and I'm sure a lot of people would still do the Sean Murray lied about a million things, but I think that the game in general would have been received very popularly, and it would have been a contender for a lot of people's Game of the Year lists.
Yeah, but now it's kind of a weird situation because Spore is the obvious analog to this previously, but it never really saw the updates and even the expansions to Spore. They never really addressed the shortcomings and what was not put into the game on release. That they promised. There was still at least one missing life stage that they showed off previously. They never really fleshed out anything outside of, now your captains can beam down and play rather lackluster ARPG segments instead. Sky's in just a weird place. It's probably a contender for one of the best improved games post-launch. I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I think so too.
But it's also one of those things that it shouldn't have come down to this to begin with.
I agree. It needed to have sat in development for a bit longer. I know that it had been in development for a long time and it had been delayed and all that jazz, but I wish that they would have kept it, just delayed it even longer.
Yeah, if they couldn't have waited to release the actual game, there is a reason why early access exists. And here's the thing: if this released in early access, and I know the consoles are toying around with early access to begin with, this could have been a darling of early access.
I agree. If they'd released it in early access for $20 last year, been like, hey, here's our road of development. We intend to be fully released with these features by next year. I'm sure people would have loved it because when it came out, it felt like a pretty solid like alpha state game, like proof of concept game that just needed a lot of polish and added features. And I would have been happy with that for $15 or $20.
Yeah,
but instead they call it a full price game, and it was garbage. It just was broken, missing features, yada yada, etc. etc.
And questionable design choices that it sounds like has since been mostly fixed.
Yeah. So I had a couple of people, when I said that I was going to be playing it this weekend, like ask if I'd recommend it, and I've talked to them about it and told them. But I mean, I recommend this game now to anybody who does enjoy this style of game. I think it's definitely worth it. It's up to you to determine how much you actually want to pay for it. The game is on sale over the weekend, and as of recording, it's on sale. It won't be whenever this episode goes up, but it's on sale for about $25 right now.
Yeah, I think it's still a few bucks higher than what I wanted to experiment with it, because I really don't know about this game.
Yeah, I think anyone who's I feel like it's 100% worth $25, especially if you're into this sort of thing.
Well, that's the thing is that
I think it's worth a try for maybe like 10 to 15 if you really don't know. I'd go in it.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking about the $15 range, because I don't have a large history with the exploration style games. I have. Yeah. I mean, I've obviously played Minecraft, but I don't think there's anyone that hasn't at this point. That could at least hold a mouse and or a controller. But Minecraft never really enthralled me all that much. It more was, what can I build in it? That's the same thing that I usually ended up with Gary's mod, was that instead of playing all the random game modes, I would try out a couple of them, then I would go build weird shit, try to make a random contraption that will turn and jump on top of a NPC that I spawn in. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe this be my jam, maybe not. It's just one of those things that I'm not sure about, and it makes me have pause about this.
Yeah.
That, and also all the lies, all the deceit. It taints it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first few hours playing it again were pretty rough, because I was trying really hard not to carry all that baggage into it, but I mean, I'm human, so obviously I can't not do that. And I had a few struggles at the beginning because I still.
That's why you need vodka.
Yeah, I didn't get a good starting planet, and the changes that they've made have made the bad starting planets at least a little bit better. But it still took me longer than I felt like it should have to get off of my starting planet. But once I did that, my tune started to change really quickly. So, yeah.
Which is rather thankful, because we both know that you can't carry one.
Touche. So yeah, No Man's Sky, everybody. Hell froze over. It's a good game now. It's pretty good.
I was wondering why my feet were cold.
Yeah. So, Rach, what's the first game you played this week?
Well, I have a bunch of really tiny games that will just intersperse your massive discussions. The first one is Tragedy of Prince Rupert. And not The Tragedy, because that would make talking about make a little bit more grammatical sense. This is a twin stick shooter, and I think everything I have here, everything except for one is just review copies of me trying out different things. And what really got me about this game was the art style. It has this monochrome, not quite black and white, because there's some shades of like a sepia tone. And I just wanted to try it out, and it's one of those games that the screenshots don't really do it justice, because there's enough of particle effects and everything, God rays, that make it look a lot prettier in motion. But it's something that really didn't grab me, and that's why I ended up not doing a video on it. It's that maybe that's something that is kind of there's a couple of games on my list that kind of fall into this, where Steam Direct, which I'm not sure if this is a Steam Direct title or not, has really opened up a lot more of niche titles. You notice that, where you're getting a lot of the smaller, like, puzzle games and that sort of thing? Between all the garbage.
Yeah.
And this is something that is really... is the flip side of what we bitched about on Steam Direct, and this is the same thing, where it's a very small, very niche title that, if you're into twin-stick shooters or a more artistic style, I think you would absolutely love it. But it's also one of those things that there's not a lot of gameplay here. It's all your general twin-stick shooter, and I'm just struggling with what to say about it, because it's one of those things that I didn't spend a lot of time with, because there is a story to it. You're trying to essentially get to your princess to marry her, but her father is just saying no to that and has sent his entire army to stop you as you're flying in your hot air balloon. Which, hot air balloon, not exactly the most war-worthy of craft, huh?
Nope, definitely not.
I mean, I enjoyed it. It's just there's not a lot to talk about.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of this aesthetic, but other than that, the game looks interesting.
Well, it's one of those things that there's a lot of little things about it. Like, you could dive under the ocean, and there's stuff to do down there as well. And there's a fair amount of exploration in this game, actually. Having to find various things and use your anchor to hook certain things, that sort of thing. So it's not just a twin-stick shooter. There's some other aspects to it as well. It's just there's not a lot to talk about here, but it's one of those things that it looked interesting enough that I wanted to at least highlight it.
Right.
And plus it also breaks up you gushing about No Man's Sky and gushing about something else.
Yeah, fair enough. Is that leeway for me to move into my next game, or...?
Yeah, even though I'm not sure if this is going to be gushing.
Yeah, so the next game that I played this week was Grand Theft Auto 5 on PC. Rockstar had it was an odd percentage, but it made the game exactly $30 after taxes, so it was like 53 or 54%, something like that. But yeah, I played Grand Theft Auto for about 5 hours this weekend. I've got some things that I like. I've got some things that I don't like. And the things that I don't like are things that I usually don't complain about, but they're really bad in Grand Theft Auto 5. So the things that I don't like, we'll start there. The controls for this game are just god-awful. I don't think it was designed by people... Well, it was designed by people who were trying to optimize the controls for a controller, not a keyboard and mouse. So... on a controller, it's only mildly annoying because you have to do things like tap A to sprint, and there's too many things assigned to too many buttons, and I forget which button does what. Like, this button pulls up this wheel, and then this button pulls up this menu that has 8 different things in it. And if you use the thumbstick and this menu, it does a different thing than if you use the D-pad. And it's like my thumb is sitting on the thumbstick, and it's like, well, shit, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to use the D-pad to scroll around on the phone or whatever. So that's frustrating. But it's worse if you try to play it on keyboard and mouse, because they didn't design it for people that have less than 8 fingers on each hand.
That seems like a very small portion of the population.
I think if you had 8 fingers on each hand, or at least your left hand, you'd be okay. But only having 5 fingers, or technically 4 fingers and a thumb, is impossible, because you've got, WASD for movement, that's fine, R for reload, that's fine, but then some of the actions you have to hit caps lock for. Left alt does something from right alt, and you have to use each of them. I'm
trying to remember, was it GTA 4 that required the arrow keys to use the phone in that?
You don't have to use the arrow keys to use the phone.
I know Sleepy Dogs that required it, but I remember the phone was bad in GTA 4 as well.
Yeah, well, you do have to use the arrow keys for some things, just not the phone. They're less commonly used. Let's see. I think it's L that brings up something. I don't know. It's really confusing. And I was like, okay, well, I can just remap this. And there are what feels like a million different keys to do things, like at least 3 times more than any PC game I've played in forever. And I just went, you know what? I want to play this game, not spend all day in the menu, so I'm just going to deal with the issues of a controller. I'm right now mostly playing single player anyways, so I don't have to worry about, well, I'm getting killed by people who can aim better than me in multiplayer. Also, driving is impossible on keyboard and mouse. It just is impossible. If you can drive your car without crashing it immediately using keyboard and mouse, you're a better human being than me. Because full acceleration and full stop and full left and full right is fine in like Saints Row, where everything's a little bit wacky and silly anyways. But they're still trying to do some amount of realism in GTA, and just constantly accelerating and turning left or right just causes many accidents and gets you killed many times. I died 3 times in the first mission because I crashed my car because the driving controls are so bad with keyboard and mouse.
You know, you're really not selling this game to me.
Yeah. If I'm complaining about controls, then it's pretty bad, because usually I get past that stuff, no problem. So I persevered, I got out my controller, I started getting used to the controls, and I started playing through the single-player story a bit, and the story's really good. This is where some of the positivity comes in, and then I'll get negative again when I go to GTA Online. But the single-player story is really good, which is the main reason that I bought the game for, is to play through the single-player. I really like the way that they weave the 3 main characters together. Going from mission to mission feels really natural, especially the missions where it's like maybe you start as one character and then wind up as a second one, or 2 or 3 of the characters are doing something together, and then, you know, at one point one of them breaks off and you follow them and then come back together. I mean, I know the game's several years old at this point, but I don't want to spoil any of the story stuff. But it's just handled really well, and it could have been like super confusing and really janky and disjointed if they'd messed it up, but they did a good job putting the story elements together. So it's always really intriguing or neat to be like, oh, now I'm going to go follow this story character or that story character. I guess I could say their names. Like, one of the earlier missions, there's Franklin and Michael, and Michael pops in, and you swap from Franklin to Michael, and then back to Franklin again, and it's pretty wild what happens, and the way that they handled it is beautiful, and it makes perfect sense, like why I'm swapping back and forth between these characters. Plus, the characters are all really interesting and fleshed out. I mean, they're 3 very separate characters. Franklin's like a new kid who's kind of naive to what's going on, like on the streets and being a criminal. And he meets Michael, who's this old, jaded, like, I'm too old for this shit, wants to get out of the game, but, he just keeps getting drawn back in. And then Trevor is just fucking insane. He's like the embodiment of the worst GTA players you've ever seen.
He's the remnant of all the wackiness from the previous GTA games, I guess.
Yeah, and the storyline, I mean, there's plenty of wackiness in it. I mean, talk radio is, the talk radio stations are still silly and hilarious, and there's certainly some wacky side missions, but the main story feels pretty serious, and I like it, actually. I like the shift from GTA being, just utterly, not necessarily ridiculous. I mean, GTA was never, at least in my opinion, never as crazy as Saints Row was or has become.
Yeah, but here's the thing, is that as GTA has gotten more serious, it's like Saints Row has gone into the garbage from GTA and stolen all the craziness from them.
Yeah,
that they've been throwing out.
But
because from GTA San Andreas to GTA 4, they lost a lot of the wackiness. There was still some of it there, but it was limited to either a couple missions or the entirety of the expansion, The Ballad of Gay Tony.
Yeah.
Which I'm still shocked that, I don't think you've ever played.
I've never played The Ballad of Gay Tony. I've played The Lost and the Damned. But
The Lost and the Damned was a pretty decent expansion. It was mostly focused on motorcycles, though, which You really like how the motorcycles handled. It was fun, but the Battle of Decay Tony felt like old GTA.
Yeah.
Plus, it also had just little moments like Brucey going to the gay bar. It's like, knew it!
There's lots of references to the other GTA games as well. That's pretty good. I mean, it's stuff that is not like super in your face. Like, you would be confused if you hadn't played other GTA games, but if you have, you're like, oh, I recognize that. I get that. That's good.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. Otherwise, like, mechanic-wise, it's the best driving GTA I've played. They've just, taken a lot of lessons over the years of how driving and car physics have come along, and so the driving feels really good. The flying is, fine. I never felt like flying was bad in Grand Theft Auto games before, but it's fine here. Boats are fine, bikes are fine, so the gunplay is fine. It's Grand Theft Auto gunplay. First person mode's weird. The game's just not built for first person. That was kind of like an added feature they added for people who wanted to play it, and that's fine. I'm all for giving players choices, but and maybe if this was like the first Grand Theft Auto game I'd ever played, it might make a bit more sense. But to me, Grand Theft Auto has always been third person, over the shoulder, run and gun action, and the first person mode is, done really well. Like, if you hide behind cover, you're looking the wrong direction. You have to lean out around cover to see what's going on.
But it makes no sense to actually play in it.
Yeah, but it makes no sense for gameplay mechanics.
Only thing I could think of why you would use it is if you want to do some of the racing in it.
Yeah, it does actually help with driving. Because, being in that first-person view, you at least can see what's going on in front of the car a bit better. But other than that, other than just like, haha, this is neat to do this thing in first person, it's, it's not useful or really all that fun. But, again, choices are good. I'm glad that they did it for the people who do enjoy that sort of thing. And then GTA Online is frustrating, to say the least. I don't mind, like, the grindiness of it. If you want to get to the really high-end stuff, it's definitely geared towards
shark cards,
encouraging you to buy shark cards. But you can buy houses and cars. I only played online for like an hour, and at the end of the first hour, I had enough money to buy a house if I wanted to, or an apartment, which had, I think, a 2-car garage. So, if you want to just get like the basics and then just like hang out with your friends and run around and do stupid shit, it's fine, no problem.
But it's meant to be a grind fest.
But it's meant to be a grind fest for people to get all of the high-end stuff. Like, all of the most recent stuff that they've added is like bunker. I think it was called the Gunrunner update, and it adds like bunkers and drug manufacturing and like a ton of like special custom vehicles with tons of weapons on them, and all of that's like $1 million for the cheapest thing. And it would take, I don't know, 10 hours to grind out $1 million to buy the very cheapest thing. And that's only one thing. That doesn't count the research that goes into that to unlock the better drugs and weapons and buying the rest of the pieces to your base and the crew and everything.
Yeah, and why would you grind this whenever you could just fly around planets instead and shoot rocks?
I know. But, to each his own, I guess. But anyways, it's super geared towards shark cards. There's no easy way to make money. You either just like run around and do all of the random stuff on the street that gives you little bits of money here and there, or you play in the random multiplayer game modes, or the occasional mission that gets given to you by one of like the secondary characters from the main story. So, it's okay, but I don't really think that I'm going to play it very much. Maybe if I know that some of our friends and listeners have it, maybe we'll do a stream night in GTA, but I'm not big into it. I came for the single player.
Oh wow.
Also, another frustrating thing about online is that there's no way to separate yourself from the general like servers. Occasionally it seems like you can wind up by yourself if everyone leaves, and then it kind of leaves you in a server by yourself for a little while. But there's constantly people there, and I'm constantly paranoid that someone's going to come and mess with me. And you can turn on what's called passive mode, but passive mode just, you can't do anything except drive around. You can't use any of your weapons, you can't do any challenges or missions in passive mode. It's just if you want to go drive around, run around, maybe like test out a car or something. But I don't know why you would do that, because you could just do that in single player. You can do like friend lobbies if you're going to run missions, but in just like the general overworld, whoever's on your server is on your server. That's frustrating. So, GTA Online kind of sucks. Single player's where it's at. I did make my online character look like Harley Quinn. I was very proud of that. I mean, I'm definitely not the first person to have that idea, but I was still really proud that I did it. She got dim pigtails and everything.
Does she have a massive hammer?
Not yet. There is like a sledgehammer you can get, which is the closest thing, but I don't have it yet. I've got a hatchet and a pistol, and I rob convenience stores with them. I have to say that's really fun. I amused myself for like 30 minutes. Like, where's all the convenience stores in downtown? I'm gonna go rob them all. I am a petty criminal.
Yes, how petty.
So yeah, that's Grand Theft Auto 5. Story mode was pretty good. The rest of it's kind of meh.
Okay, so speaking of kind of meh, after the tragedy of Prince Rupert, I decided, I have a review copy of a visual novel. Let's try that. Holy shit. Oh, wow. This is why I haven't done a Sunday sampler in a couple weeks. Now, I generally am somewhat forgiving on visual novels. It's my soft spot, I guess. I don't know. But, damn. And it's not even the subject matter, because the whole idea of this visual novel is you're, a loser. I mean, let's put it bluntly. Who gets transported to different worlds whenever you fuck a girl. All right? Don't ask me how that works, but fine.
Okay. I'm in. I'm already in. I don't care how bad this is. I'm in.
It has some very, very, very janky dialogue to begin with. I think it was originally in Russian, and they pretty much did a Google Translate there. But they obviously didn't copy and paste it, because there was typos all over the fucking place. In the first 5 to 10 minutes of this game, I ran into 4 or 5 typos. And it was at that point, it's like, no. I realized that, I was going to end up spending the entire time just being angry about this. So I didn't play terribly long in this, but you could see just kind of how cringeworthy the dialogue gets with some of the screenshots in the game. Because, it's not... There's no real flow in the dialogue whatsoever. There's no real flow in how the sentences work, which makes me feel like it's a very rough translation to begin with. Art-wise, it's not bad, though. I mean, I have to give it that much. I mean, and the fact that this is, let's put it frank, this is a sex visual novel, and they do have a adult patch for it. But it's actually included in the original download, which is strange for a Steam game. And it's like behind a password that is fairly easy to find. So, there is that. But the thing is, there's easier ways to see tits.
Woohoo! Show me the anime boobies.
But that's the thing, is that there's a lot better out there.
There are.
It's an interesting premise, though. It's called Crystal City, or with the subtitle, Stop the Earth, I'm Getting Off. See what they did there?
Yeah.
Which originally, when I got the review copy, it was Stop the Earth, I'm Getting Off, and I was terribly confused why it was showing as Crystal City in my library to begin with. It's one of those things that, if you're looking for kind of a low-grade visual novel, which this is a very cheap one, once again, it's not completely unplayable, but oh damn it definitely needed an editor.
Yeah. I just went and requested a review copy of this game.
Well, it would shock me if you didn't get it, because, yeah, and that's the thing, is that I'm usually a lot more forgiving with visual novels. And, well, there's also a couple more aspects to this. There is a locked room section where it's not just a visual novel, but it's also, yeah, that's the main pull of it. What the main pull of it is, well, a different thing.
Wink.
Thank you. It's just, I was disappointed with, just running into so many typos in the very beginning of it.
Yeah.
The visual novel genre is really starting to explode on Steam, and you have to at least put out some level of quality to be able to really stand out from the crowd, and this just isn't it. Matter of fact, it's not even, well, it's listed visual novel as its fourth tag, behind sexual content, nudity, and anime. You can see where they're going with that, huh?
Yeah.
Once again, not a lot to talk about, just because, yeah, it's, it's a game that I only spent probably less than half an hour playing.
Alrighty. Well, next game on my list, another heavy hitter then. Mass Effect Andromeda. So I'm actually surprised to have this back up on my list again. I said I was probably done with it until...
Yeah, I was hoping so.
I actually finished the game, and then I could kind of give some wrap-up thoughts. But I got into the relationship system, finally. And I initially was like, heh, you can flirt with a lot of people. I'm going to try and bang all the aliens and the humans. But it turns out that they've actually got what feels like a pretty decent romance system. And also the way they handle relationships and different types of people and their sexualities is done in a really mature, well thought out, interesting way. And there's a ton of diversity in this game in terms of not just sexuality, but different sort of, I guess, progressive thinking for families and things like that. And like, here's where we hope to be in the 23rd century. So I'll start with the relationship system. It's not just like say all the right things and people will like you and want to bang you. I mean, that's part of it. But you can lead people down different relationship paths. So I started out initially like just flirting with everybody. But some people, as I've gotten to know them and on more intimate levels, and that's not just sex, but about them, and they're sharing their sort of deep dark secrets and opening up to your character. There's a couple people that I'm like, yeah, I don't actually want to date you. So then you can start moving your relationship to more of a friendship type aspect, and you can still have these very deep, very deep, intimate relationships that aren't sexual in nature, which previous Mass Effect games, basically, if you don't travel down the romance path, you don't get super close to any of the characters. So it's nice to be able to feel like I'm developing friendships with some of these characters. And some of them you can develop relationships with on a friendship basis. Like they reject you initially romantically, but then you become their friends, and then they start to show interest in you romantically because they've got to know you better. And there's one character that you have to get to know in like a physical, sexual sense. She's like very anti-commitment, but she does want sex. And then once you get to know her a little bit better through that, like she's actually like, you know what? I've been spending time with you, and I think I want more than just sex with you. So that I thought that was interesting, because sometimes real relationships work that way. Like you get together with someone because they're hot, you hook up, and then feelings develop, and somebody wants to, take the relationship a step farther. And well, in that relationship, I'm gonna put her in the friend zone because I don't want to pursue her romantically. I just wanted the casual sex.
I'm not her slut.
Except I'm playing Fem Rider, so I'm just a slut. But I just, it's not perfect. It's not like a substitution for real relationships or anything like that. But as far as games go and having relationship systems, it feels really good. It feels like it's light years ahead of their previous attempts at doing it. Even Dragon Age Inquisition, which had a pretty decent system, still, like, if you didn't pursue the romantic relationship, you couldn't really develop friendships with the characters. You couldn't really have those deep, intimate moments unless you were trying to have the sex with that character. So I think that's pretty nice, because, I mean, I have quite a few people in my life that I feel like I have a pretty deep, intimate relationship with that has nothing to do with sex or sexual attraction. Just, we're good friends and we know a lot about each other. And also people tend to open up to me because I'm a therapist. So that feels nice. And then in terms of, like, how it handles progressive thinking in terms of, like, family units and how people approach their sexuality, it doesn't make a big deal about anything. Like, Ryder can flirt with whoever he or she wants to, and the characters will be like, oh, actually, I'm not into girls. That's very flattering, but I'm not into girls. Or one of the alien characters is like, I really appreciate it, but I'm not into humans.
That's racist.
I'm into this alien race, or, and it's just like, oh, okay, that's cool. I didn't know. And they were like, well, I mean, how would you know without asking? It's still flattering. So it's not awkward. Nobody points anything out to anybody else. Like, oh, what are you doing being this way? It's just like, okay, you're into dudes or you're into chicks, and that's just who you are. We're not going to let it affect anything else for the rest of the game, except you can't pursue them romantically because they're just not into you. And I think that's really cool and mature. And then as far as, like, family units go, there's a few, like, there's a trans person in the game that you find out is trans, and that's not a big deal. They just, they open up to you and tell you, and you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm glad that you found, what it was that made you happy. And then there's a family that is a lesbian, obviously a lesbian female, and then a gay man who are just really good friends, and they want to raise a child. And so they choose to adopt a child and raise it just as a cohabitating family. And that's pretty cool that they don't, they acknowledge that there's other family structures out there than what's considered the traditional nuclear family of, mom, dad, and some kids. So it's very progressive, and I like it. I mean, honestly, I'm making a bigger deal out of all of this stuff than the game does at all. It just is like, here it is, and it's how these people are, and it's fine. We're all just gonna be in this big universe together and do cool stuff, and who really cares who you're attracted to, as long as everybody's open and honest with everybody else. It's that very, like, it feels very much like the Star Trek idealized version of the future, except about people's sexuality instead of, humanity overcoming hunger, world hunger, and war and stuff. And I'm okay with that. Small steps. That's pretty much what I had to say about Mass Effect Andromeda this week.
What? Sorry, maybe it's just mean of me. Mass Effect Andromeda, especially since they've announced that the series is pretty much dead, at least for the time being. I just kind of not really pay attention to it anymore.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I love it, but we're into different things, so
yeah. Yeah, speaking of something different, how about Simple Planes?
Okay.
I spent a little bit of time with this as well. Not really enough time to be able to crack it. Mostly because, well, it's very clear that it was originally a mobile game. Due to just how the interface is handled, and it annoyed me. Well, to give you an idea, Simple Planes is essentially the aircraft hangar from Kerbal Space Program. Since we played a lot of Kerbal, and most of our listeners are still from Kerbalcast, I would assume. So, and Simple Planes, the key difference with how it handles things is that, well, for one, it likes to make everything into a single part, essentially. So you put down the blocks instead of how Kerbal handles everything, where you have a craft with, let's say, 50 or 60 parts. It's kind of just this blob that's kind of glued itself together into a single mass. Which, for visual sense, it looks great. Now, what bugs the ever-loving hell out of me is putting an airplane together, because it constantly was closing all the damn menus. To make a plane, you have to, get out the basic fuselage block and put one down, then put another one down, put another one down. And for Kerbal, just be mouse, grab one, grab it. This, open up the menu, scroll down, grab the block, put one down. Oh, it closed. Grab another one. I'm assuming that there's probably a hotkey to copy everything, but it just annoyed the ever-living hell out of me. And on top of that, also, it kept grabbing the wrong controller. I know, irony, since we started the podcast of me recording the wrong microphone, right?
Yeah.
But the way my controller is handled is a little bit odd to begin with, because I use a DualShock 4 controller. And the way I have it set up in Windows is that Windows actually sees two controllers when my controller is on. It sees my actual controller through the Bluetooth, but then it sees an emulated controller, which is a Xbox 360 controller. And yes, this does cause some problems, especially in games like Simple Planes. But the reason why I do this is that the software that runs the Xbox 360 emulated controller has a lot of options on how to change that controller. So I could go in and completely change the configuration of it. I could add keybinds to it, but it goes beyond that. I could change the curve of the thumbstick so that it's not as a sharp of turn whenever I move my thumbstick, for example.
Okay.
And for a game like Simple Planes, where you need very precise movement, it's one of those things that it's. I'm surprised that a lot more games don't have these days. Having it where you could change how the thumbsticks are handled as a percentage based. It's one of those things that is kind of a holdover from the joystick era, I guess, where joysticks were a lot more configurable in general, especially with how the axes were handled. But Simple Planes kept grabbing the wrong controller. It would see movement on the DualShock controller, and like, oh, you're using this one now. You're using the 360 controller, and the DualShock controller is set up to have a lot smaller dead zone than what I'm used to. So I kept having like a wiggle in my plane because I would move the plane or move the thumbstick, and it would be a lot sooner of movement and a lot more precise of movement. And I would just constantly overcompensate. And that was something else that kind of bugged me. But that said, all my annoyances with it, I will say that Simple Planes is probably one of the best teaching tools to teach someone how airplanes work in general. Even better than Kerbal. Mostly because Kerbal has, well, at least last time I played, very little in the actual tutorial section on how airplanes fly and how they're constructed. Simple Planes had a rather lengthy tutorial. Granted, it was all just, texts, single pane, if it was on the phone, you would just swipe across it, but, it was clicking across. Of how airplanes fly, how they're controlled, how they're constructed. And it was a lot more in-depth than what I was expecting. And Simple Planes is also not just a plane program, because they have the ability to make cars and tanks and stuff like that as well, which there was one screenshot that says, wait a minute, aren't we a plane game?
Yeah, I think it's got like a Formula 1 car on it or something like that.
Granted, the maps are pretty small. They're typically just islands with endless sea around them, so it's not like Microsoft Flight Sim where you're flying from one city to another and all the landscape in between. It's just you're flying around this one little island. Think of it as the island base in Kerbal. Is once again a good analogy for it. That said, if I could get past all the menu problems, and my controller problems are mostly just I have it set up well enough. I could go in and disable or hide the DualShock 4 controller from Windows altogether, but it requires a complete restart of that software, and I just didn't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more there than what I was really expecting, and there's a lot more challenges as well, like landing on an aircraft carrier or taking off from an aircraft carrier. There's ring races, the gameplay that Superman 64 could only dream of. So there's a lot there if you're interested in aircraft. It's just it requires a bit of tolerance for a somewhat janky from mobile to PC port. Not a bad port, it's just janky.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Speaking of janky games.
Yeah, so my next game, we're now out of the big boys and into the smaller games that I played this week that I got off of Keymailer. Team Racing League.
Yeah, I got a review copy of this as well, and I saw the just how many people are playing and realized, yeah, they're probably not worth my time.
Yep, this is one of those games that is online multiplayer only, and it's a tiny indie game, and nobody's playing it. Right now, there's one person playing it, and its all-time peak was 25, which was probably launch day, because I think that's the day that they sent out
probably launch day and all the keys.
Yeah. So
because I could go onto my list and probably tell you exactly what I got mine. It'll just take me a moment for that to load.
Sure.
Let's see. I got it on the 11th.
Yeah, that's when I got it too, which I think was the day it launched. So, it's a hovercraft racing game that has got a whole bunch of like team specific like special like power-ups that you can do. You can hook up with your teammate, for example, to provide an extra...
Talking about more hooking up.
Yeah, you can hook up with your teammate to provide like extra boosts to them. Like all you do is boost. They're the one who's doing the driving, and you can just sit there and constantly cycle your boosts to speed them up. Or you can team up with or hook up with another teammate to create like an energy field that whenever the opposite team's cars fly through it, they explode. But your team goes through it unscathed. And that one's kind of difficult to do even in the training. But, you know, there's a few other little things that it does like that, which are pretty neat and might be fun if you could get a race with multiple people on it. It actually controls really well. You're basically drifting around every single corner, which once you kind of get it nailed down is incredibly satisfying. Makes you feel like a total badass to just drift around an entire course and get a really good time. But you know, it's a multiplayer game. The only single player components to it are the training mode, which is, you know, tutorial, and then time trial, which lets you just practice on a track and try and get the best time. And you after your first lap, you race your ghost, and it gets better and better until you can't beat your ghost anymore. And I mean, that's fun for a little bit. I played this game for, I don't know, 45 minutes or so before I kind of felt like I had the drifting mastered, and was bored of practicing by myself and trying to find online games to no avail. I've tried 3 times now to find online games to play. The first time I logged on, there were 5 people, including me. The second time, there were 2 people, including me. And the last time, I was the only person in the whole world playing this game. So...
And 1 is the loneliest number.
It is. So, I mean, I think it's a fun, cute little game that has some potential, but it suffers from we're going to do an online-only multiplayer indie game.
That has no marketing budget behind it whatsoever.
Yep.
So and it's also a very small indie game.
Yeah, so it's got no player base or nothing. So
it's probably... is there any local play?
No.
Ooh. This would have been a game I would have expected had some sort of local multiplayer on it as well.
I mean, they might add it at some point. It's in early access, but as of right now, there's no local multiplayer. It's online multiplayer only. And it says it's 1v1, 2v2, 3v3, so you would think that you might be able to get a game with the other one person, but, I mean, you can only just search for games and choose by region, and it never gave me a game, even when there were 5 people online. So, I don't know.
That's disappointing. I guess that's going to be another game that just sits in my library and is maybe farm for cards, and that's about it.
Yeah.
It's really sad to see indie games like this because, there's definitely a market for them. It's just, there's countless numbers of them.
Yeah. If you could race with AI, like maybe do 1v1 races and the AI made up the other teammates, that might be okay. Maybe you could just give
that's
them
what
some
I assumed
basic...
it was at first, but I guess not.
Nope. Or hell, even being able to just race by yourself against AI would be okay. But no, you can't. At least not at this stage.
Disappointing. So, more disappointment?
Sure, more disappointment.
Warfront Defenders, Westerplatte?
Westerplatte?
See, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that word. I assume it's German. Because this is a World War II game.
Yeah, this is a World War II defense game, or at least that's what they're calling it, tactical defense minigame. Based on World War II, and on the surface, it doesn't look bad. I mean, just take a look at the screenshots, but then you start noticing, that this is early access, though, so there is a chance that they'll improve this, and this may be something I come back to and try later. But it was one of those things that I looted up and I started looking at the map, and I'm not sure how many maps there are in this game because the one that they're showing in all the screenshots is the same one that I played. That's the very first one. But it is an extremely ugly game once you get up close. There's a lot of very muddy textures. All the roofs on the houses are floating a few pixels above the walls.
Fun.
Granted, you're not really supposed to look at that from that angle, but it's one of those that once I saw it, it's like, oh, this is not going to end well, and it didn't. I had on top of graphical issues, gameplay issues as well. The pathfinding in this game is atrocious. And in my opinion, when you release an early access, the game has to be at the very base level playable. That seems fair, right?
I would agree.
Okay. I started by defense. And the Germans came in about a third of the map. And then I got shot at them. And they kind of... I assume it's supposed to be running, but they take like 3 steps and then they suddenly move it like 3 times the speed until they're back to wherever they're heading towards. There's no fluid acceleration that makes it feel like they're running, and there's no change in the animation outside of the walking animation just moving a lot faster. And it made it so that it felt like the game was rubber banding the units back. On top of that, you have a battleship that's constantly shooting at your guys that you can't deal with whatsoever. So you can see on one of the screenshots, there's this giant, red circle of death, which often forces you to move units that, for no reason whatsoever. Oh, and if you try to use this little thing called cover in a tactical defense game, your units are not smart enough to be able to fire over the cover. If it's like at chest level. There's at the beginning of the level. Let's see if one of the screenshots could show it really well. On the first screenshot, there's a bunch of boulders, and they're about chest level. You would think, okay, tactical game, they would lean around the boulders or fire over the boulders. Nope, not in the slightest. They'll just stand there and wait for the enemy to come around the boulder, so the boulder doesn't offer any cover anymore, and then start shooting. In theory, sometimes they're clipping into the boulder and they don't shoot at all. As a matter of fact, I had one of my guys die because I was trying to move him up to one of the houses in the middle of the map, and I guess I clicked on the wall of the house, so he was standing in place trying to run to the target that was inside the boundaries of the house, and the clipping was preventing him from getting to it. And I couldn't select him because he was currently in motion. So he was standing there running into the fucking wall while the Germans shot him to death.
That poor little Polish boy. I looked it up. It's Polish, not German.
Okay.
Westerplatte.
Well, depending on your time in history, it's the same thing. Sick burn? Sorry. I apologize.
Sorry, chemist. He's very sorry.
It's just one of those things that there's potential here. Because usually, this isn't a tower defense game. It's a tactical defense game. And there's, places here where they could improve it. But it's just such a rough start that I think it's going to not really get a lot of traction. I mean, granted, it is getting highly rated by the handful of people that's rating it, but part of me thinks that, these are friends of the producers.
Yeah.
Because I immediately had pathic issues. I immediately had cover issues. I immediately had soldiers not doing what they were supposed to. The upgrade system is kind of janky to begin with. You have a countless number of troops that you could summon, but there's no binding boxes. Well, you can bind box select, but you can't do any grouping whatsoever. So, you would think that they would take some thoughts or some gameplay elements from an RTS and be able to, okay, this is going to be my primary defensive guys, and they'll be group one, and especially since you have to move the units, and I would say probably 5 seconds of time to get out of red circle of death from the warship, you would be able to have groups of units that you could quickly select all and move them out. No, you can't. You have to bomb box them, and that's assuming that the pathing works, because, like I said, I had the pathing either break altogether, or I've had pathing clip onto buildings. I had the pathing just kind of rubber band people around. It's just unplayable. Or I should say unplayable to someone of my high standards, I guess, because, there's 5 positive reviews of this game. Don't ask me how.
Well, you want to talk about a game that's so bad that I think it's a piece of shit?
I didn't know that it existed.
Yeah. So, my next game, Techwars Online 2. This game...
What, they made a sequel?
I didn't know there was a Techwars Online. This game is utter garbage. It's broken as fuck. It's unplayable as a turd. It looks like a turd. It sounds terrible. It's full of grammar and spelling errors in the text that's readable. The actual spoken dialogue, what little of it exists in the game, is just atrocious, both quality-wise and in delivery. The audio quality's bad, and someone's just sitting there reading off of their script or whatever. Just reading it. It's terrible. This game is terrible. It's an online multiplayer game only.
How many players?
The online multiplayer doesn't work. There was enough players online that I was able to find a game.
Well, that beats Team Racing League.
Yeah, it says that 11 was its all-time peak on Steam Enhanced. I don't know if you can play this game not through Steam, but I got into a game immediately, and there were a couple of other active games that I could see listed, so I don't know, maybe that you can just download it, or it's just bad. It's just unplayably bad. It won't run at 60 FPS, no matter what I did to it. Even in the training mode where I was just by myself walking around, the best I could get was 55 frames a second. And as soon as...
Is it locked to 55, maybe?
No, it's not.
Well, I was saying that's the, the maximum.
No, I had the frame rate set to unlocked in the options menu.
You're assuming that the option menu actually is telling the truth.
Fair enough. The rest of the game was so utterly broken. I wouldn't expect the options menu to work properly either. But, standing...
I'm just reading the reviews. There are so many positive reviews.
Yeah, I know. It's... these people must... I don't know if they've been paid or if they don't want to,
Great
say
game,
anything.
like a top-down Hawken.
No, definitely not. Not at all. Unless your only qualifier is that it has robots in it. In which case, yeah, sure. The robot customization makes no sense. It's just bad. Everything about this game is bad. It's bad technically. It's designed badly. The audio quality is bad. It's full of spelling errors. It runs like garbage. As soon as I got into a multiplayer match, 32 FPS. And then as soon as I started moving and people started shooting, it became a slideshow. 7, 8 FPS. It's terrible. Just the worst. I hate it. I installed it immediately.
It's bad whenever you're sounding like me.
This is the worst game I've played this year. It's probably going to be the worst game of the year when we do our end of the year roundup, our awards episode. This game is probably going to win worst game of the year for me. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
It was so bad I felt dirty afterwards.
Wow, you feeling dirty now. That's an accomplishment.
It's terrible. No one buy or play this game.
Well, the fun part is I have a review copy of this. Typically, whenever you get a review copy, I have a review copy as well.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to torture yourself or see if they've improved it at all, but there hasn't been an update since July 17th, so... Oh, apparently there's swords, according to this. Damage of swords. Update, new, damage of swords. I don't know what that means, but...
Well, have you heard Swords of Damage?
Oh, this is it. New update available. Corrected the balance of weapons and fixed several bugs. New, damage of swords, flame effects, auto search of surfer with best beam. That's the entire patch notes. Great patch notes, guys. Yeah, it's terrible.
The best.
It's terrible. At least it has trading cards, so I'll get a few trading cards out of this piece of hot garbage.
A game is bad whenever you sound like me.
Yeah. The gameplay is slow. The mechs are too slow. The weapons feel useless. Aiming is atrocious. It's just bad.
I actually prefer my mechs to be, the Mech Warrior style of slow stompy over... I think it was Hawken that had the super fast. It didn't really feel like you were in a mech.
Well, see, I prefer the Mech Warrior style as well, but the way that it's done, it's like you're slow, but you feel powerful. It feels weighty, but this is just like zombie shuffling. I mean, if you go look at the video, you can see the mechs kind of shuffling around. It's just it's terrible. It's terrible. I think that they need to be fast for this type of game, but they're not. They're slow. It's the worst. I hate it. Please save me with another game. Even if your next game sucks, at least I don't have to keep talking about this piece of shit anymore.
Yeah, but I like the angry pants. I see what you mean by whenever I wear them. Okay, so I guess my last game. This is one I picked up on mobile. I'll wait for the collective gasp. Yeah, this is one I saw as a recommended game whenever I was picking up another app, and it's Skinner Box the game, essentially. This is it doesn't really make it sound like it on the store page, but it's a clicker about a anime girl who is adrift on a raft in essentially a flooded world, and you're going around fishing.
There's fishing in it.
Yeah.
You like fishing.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that it's something that you could waste a little bit of time on. It's not exactly the most deep of game, See what I did there? Deep fishing. Yeah.
Oh.
But it's definitely, like I said, it's Skinner box the game because it is a clicker game. So it's you're sitting there tapping, getting all the numbers up. You're getting incremental rewards. It's after watching that extra credits episode, it kind of ruined a lot of MMOs for me. Now that I really could see that mechanic. And that's the clicker genre in general as well. And I was hoping that this would be a lot more of an RPG than that. This is centered around essentially just dressing up your anime girl, and I'm really selling this game to you, aren't I?
Yes.
And dressing up your raft and improving your raft and going to go collect bigger and better fish. I mean, if you want a game that is just about that, that's fine. If you want something that you could waste a couple minutes on and get a little bit of progression on, because you do level up fast, your rank goes up fairly quickly. I did notice that firing it up just before the show started to check a couple things to remind myself, all the timers stop whenever you're not playing, except for the daily login, of course, because of course it has a daily login. So there's an alchemy system and there's a roulette system. The alchemy allows you to get a certain currencies as a chance, and the roulette is essentially spin the wheel and you get a random amount of mastery, which is used to improve certain skills or unlock certain skills. And the fish cakes that you get for collecting random fish, you also improve certain skills or unlock other skills. And eventually you get to the point where you can auto fish somewhat and deal a certain amount of damage to the fish, because it's not actual fishing. It's you hook the fish and then you're tapping it till you're tapping it into submission.
Okay. Tap that fish. Tap.
Yeah, essentially. And the unlocks just add your damage. It's one of those things that, like I said, if you're looking for a clicker game that's kind of cute, this definitely sorts it out. And you can see on the screenshots, if you go check it out, some of the progression, just how the world changes based on where you are and how you've upgraded your raft and your looks as well, because you can make your little anime girl more cute, give her a little sailor suit that gives her better stats, and then sail around a ruined, flooded world.
Yeah, Waterworld style.
Yeah, it's sort of an inverse Mad Max, because you do go from Japan to Australia very quickly, and Australia has all the water. It's global warming to the extreme.
Sounds interesting. Extreme global warming. Extreme!
Yeah, it turns out it's a documentary game. But once again, it's kind of the theme for my games this week. Not a terrible lot to talk about. It's if you want a clicker game, there you go.
Yeah. Well, awesome.
And I have a feeling your last game is not going to have a lot of depth either.
Yeah, my final game is Kingdoms and Castles. I said a couple weeks ago.
This seems familiar.
I said a couple weeks ago that I was going to check this out after you talked about it, and I discovered I had a review key. It's cute. It's fun for a little bit, but I mean, exactly what you said last time. You get an hour and a half, 2 hours in, and you're like, oh, this is all there is. I've basically progressed and unlocked everything, and it just becomes, how long do I want to sit here and babysit all of my people? And just keep expanding to take over the whole map.
Yeah, and the defense is essentially tower defense. You're not running your armies around or anything. Well, you do eventually get to that, but it's very basic.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get those hero units or whatever that they are.
Yeah, but
I mean, it's still super basic. It's just point them here, and they go fight the whoever, and they win or they die. There's no tactical anything to it, and the tower defense portion is easier anyways.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, for being a game about building a castle and building walls and that sort of thing, the best defense I've found in my time playing it was to build your tower as tall as possible, and then plop whatever tower on top of it, so it covers your entire map, and there you go.
Yep.
Which in a game about a medieval style village and castles. Having skyscrapers seems a little immersion breaking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, me and you came to the same conclusion, apparently, for how to basically make your place invincible. Giant couple of towers in the middle of the map. You put one with an archer thing on it and one with a ballista on it, and you're good. I mean, maybe on the harder difficulties or something, it would be more difficult, where you might lose. But I was just playing on normal, and I didn't have any problems.
Doing. And you saw pretty much, me going into it not realizing it wasn't an early access game. You could see where I thought, this is a nice space for a game.
Yeah, I felt the same way too. Like, this is a nice, alpha, proof of concept, or maybe like early beta. They've got some more features planned, but no, I knew going in it was fully developed, and I felt exactly the same way. There's also really no repercussions for if things start to go wrong.
Yeah.
As long as you don't get completely wiped out, you're fine. Your population will, everything stays in the same place, and your population will slowly work its way back up. Happiness was the only thing that was of any issue to me, because I kind of built
hit that.
I kind of built too tightly, like trying to be efficient with everything,
mm-hmm.
and I couldn't put down any structures that increased my happiness. But I just ripped up a couple of buildings and plopped down like a town square, and I was on a pretty heavy water map, so I just kind of expanded out into the water, because you can build what are they called, piers or something?
Yeah.
And you can build on top of those. It's like you plop down a couple of taverns on the piers, and
I didn't know that you could build onto the piers. I never had an issue with land to even deal with that, because there was just so little. I do still really like the art style, though, particularly of the dragon. I thought the dragon was really well done.
Yeah. I definitely agree. The art style is good. I like the dragons and the Viking ships and everything, but in general, I like the art style. But yeah, after like 90 minutes, I was like, okay, I'm bored with this, because there's nothing else to do, and I've basically won, because I've repelled two dragons and 2 Viking invasions, and I've only taken up like a quarter of the map. So basically, I would just be expanding out to take over the whole map.
Yeah, the only real thing that I had trouble with was the ogre, but that was just put down another tower and I'm done.
Yeah, I didn't actually see the ogre. But
the ogre comes with the Viking invasions eventually, if you hit a certain population threshold, I think.
Okay. My population was like 100 and... Well, when I finished, it was like 150, but it hovered around 100 for a long time.
I know I went over 100. I'm not sure if I went over 200. And I'm going to to the global stats. I only have the achievement for 100, but I'm not sure if there's one for 200 or not. But because it does say a certain number of for each achievement, and it doesn't say which ones.
Yeah.
But I did get the Slayer of Ogres achievement, so it's one of those things that this should have been an early access. This is the No Man's Sky syndrome.
I like that, No Man's Sky syndrome. NMSS, No Man's Sky syndrome.
Where it's a fairly decent base game with no real content whatsoever, and maybe patches will fix it. And they do have a development roadmap. Let's see, in development now, merchants and ports. Build a port and merchant ships will dock and allow buying and selling of goods. Sometimes they'll even have special upgrades for your town and castle. Why is that in the original build? Let's see, Twitch integration, because of course this needs Twitch integration. A hero system, a special hero you have direct control over. Okay. Special map features. Maps have a chance to reveal a secret feature for your kingdom to contend with or take advantage of. Things like bandit camps or ancient ruins. VR support, because why the fuck not? Yeah, this feels like feature creep. Oh, and of course people are wanting multiplayer. Why multiplayer in this? Why?
Yeah, why? VR might be kind of neat. Like, this could be one of those experiences. It's like, oh, I'm just going to lean over the table and check out my whole... Oh, look, that cute little dragon flying around. Hey, dragon, let me just zoom in on you. But, I don't think
the dragon
VR
to
would...
death.
Waggle it to death with your controller. drag
Oh,
the
so that's
light
what you're
beam
calling it
across
these
it.
days.
Yeah, I'm waggling. But yeah, I mean it's fun, but it's very clearly feels unfinished. And after an hour,
But this had a
90
successful
minutes.
Fig campaign, and it's the darling of the Fig platform.
Well, good for them.
I really don't understand how this game has very positive reviews at 82% with 1,500 reviews. I do not understand that.
Me neither.
I mean, everyone's praising how casual it is. I mean, are we just not getting it? Is this a game that's just not for us?
Maybe not. I mean, I enjoyed what I played of it. There's just no real goal. I mean,
to be fair, town builders don't really need a goal, but there's no meat on the bones was my problem.
There's no, yeah. Well, I mean, there's no like end game.
There's no real production. I mean,
Yeah.
you get the mines, but they're a constant production source, and there's no reason to worry about. Okay, well, what's going to happen when this mine runs out? How am I going to contend with this? There's no real supply chains. You have your forester feed the charcoal maker, if I recall correctly, and the charcoal maker makes all the charcoal for the town, which spontaneously catches on fire. So why do they need charcoal to stay warm anyway, right?
Yeah, it just randomly catches on fire all the time.
Yeah,
But the charcoal maker also takes charcoal to the tools.
Yeah,
and the
well,
weapons.
I was about to say
Yeah.
the blacksmith, and the blacksmith also takes iron from the mine, and that's about it for the chains. I do know that there's a bakery, but I couldn't figure out why I would need the bakery unless that's just a happiness building.
Yeah, the bakery is like more efficient storage of your food, but you don't really need that because if your food production is high enough, everybody just gets food.
Yeah, you get food from farms like crazy, and the thing is that your farmers are hit maximum level within a year or two. So your farms, unless you have absolutely shit farmland, are producing enough for your entire town twice over.
Yeah, because I think each baked bread is worth 5 food, whereas if you just bring in the grain, it's worth 1 food per unit. But a granary is super cheap to store grain in, and then like you said,
your only real problem would be storage, because the farms have to drag all the food over to a nearby granary. But if you build your farmland properly and have it where the farms all feed into the granary, which feeds into a market, which I guess is another production chain. Hey, we're up to 3 now. Woo!
Yeah.
Holy shit! Nearly as many as Banished. And the thing is, I criticize Banished for being simplistic. Holy shit!
Yeah, and honestly, you don't really need the tools maker guy. I mean, like, when tools are successfully made, like, they can be taken to one of the mines or the tree.
Yeah, see, I was just assuming that
nursery.
Tools were like in Banished, where if you didn't have tools, that you were doomed.
No, they just give production boosts for like one tool is consumed, and for X amount of time they'll produce faster. That's it. And you don't need that anyways, because your mines put out so much, and as your peasants level up, they have even higher production stats. I mean, I was never out of anything ever.
Well, until the next Halo game comes out, then your peasants all have shit production for a while.
I see what you did there. But anyways, yeah, it's I was like constantly like, oh, I'm full on all this stuff. I guess I need to build another. What were the resource, like a resource shed or whatever it was that they were called?
Yeah.
So I was constantly running out of space because I had too many resources. I was spending like crazy. Like, let me make this big tower. Let me make this big wall. Let me build all this stuff I don't really need. Like, I might go over there. I guess I'll just build a whole road system over there.
Yeah, when I did my video on this, I just did a very basic town starting off with, because my town I was touring around with, just looked terrible because I was building these massive towers.
Yeah.
But maybe I should have showed that off. I don't know, to just show how the tower defense kind of just revolves around a handful of buildings. And if you want to make the place look pretty like in the screenshots, you can. It's just there's no real point to it.
Yeah, I mean that's the only reason that I'm even like halfway considering going back. Like, I didn't really make like a proper looking town. I went for like full blown efficiency and crammed everything in together. But it might be kind of fun to make a medieval town for like an hour.
Yeah, but if you're going to do that, just fire it Banished.
Oh, I don't have Banished.
Oh, there's your problem. I think Banished is a better medieval town simulator. Granted, it doesn't have a combat component to it.
I mean, honestly, if I'm going to play a game like this, I'm just going to open Transport Fever.
Different type of game.
I mean, it's the same basic type of game.
That's more revolving around, transporting stuff, isn't it? This isn't really that.
I mean, it felt more similar than more different to me because of how simple it was.
Ah, okay.
That's the thing. Like, I mean, complex city and town builders are a completely different type of genre. But I just felt like, I was like, okay, do I have enough roads to make sure all my grain makes it back? Do I have, like, this or that? Like,
I had the roads break on me during my playtest where people were just cutting across the land.
Yeah, or they wouldn't build the roads either. I had that happen a few times. Like, I'd put... The roads were the only thing that I was building, and they would just ignore little sections of road. It's like, well, what are you guys doing? Build the road. Or bridges. They would swim instead of building the bridge. It's like
I didn't even bother with the bridges.
The fucking bridge is right there. Just walk across it. Build the rest of it. They would leave sections out of the bridge and just swim instead of finishing the bridge. Stupid peasants.
So like how the game is, not finished.
Hey-o.
The basic structure's there.
Yeah. But I'm going to swim across the ocean instead of finishing my bridge. All right. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. We talked about it longer than I thought we would, honestly.
Mostly because we both played it.
Yeah.
And shared about the same results. I was hoping maybe that you had been a little bit more kinder to it, and prove me that, maybe this is a more casual city builder, and I'm coming into it from RimWorld that has, like 80 mods on top of it, making it even more fucking complex. But no?
No, it is a simple city builder, but it's boring because it's too simple for someone like me who has played lots of city builders and management games and tycoon games and stuff. There's just nothing to do.
Maybe it's for the people that's like, so that's what a house is like.
I mean, this would probably be a good,
you grow food? Holy shit.
This would probably be like a good, like, baby's first city builder.
Okay, we just found the market. Go get King.
I'm not gonna go wake up my kid. I will show it to him, though.
Fine, he can wait until the morning.
Next time we play games, I'll show it to him. He probably won't like it.
Not enough explosions.
Yeah, not enough explosions, or cute animals, or
anime boobies.
I've never showed him anime boobies before.
Well, I kind of figured that because you're still alive. Katie would probably kill you.
Yeah, that's probably definitely illegal, because that would count as pornography. Showing pornography to a minor. That's definitely illegal. So I'm not going to do that.
Yet.
I'll let him find it on his own when he's a little bit older.
Yeah, he needs to, be at least 5 for that.
Yeah, definitely. Okie dokie. Well, that was a good, 2-hour discussion, nearly.
Yeah, really.
About games. I knew we'd go longer. I need to take a quick break, my good sir.
All right.
We're back to now move on to the news.
Yay.
Our first news topic for the day, which this would have been really pertinent a couple of weeks ago when we talked about the value of games. Indie games are too damn cheap.
Yeah, this is an editorial from... it was from Steam Spy, if I recall correctly.
You do recall correctly.
Hey. First time for everything.
Yeah. So, the general gist...
You're not supposed to agree with that.
The general gist of the article is that indie video games are much cheaper comparatively to other indie products that exist in other entertainment mediums like film and books. Although film is the direct comparison that is made.
Which I'm not sure if I agree with, but we'll get into that in a moment.
Yeah, and that essentially it's hurting the market by having these games be cheaper. And they're making unsustainable projects because, you know, even if a game sells 20 or 30,000 copies at only $4 a copy, at the end of the day, that's not a lot of money unless you're a one-man or one-woman show, you know, because you have your bills to pay and employees to pay and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I'm simplifying a lot here, but I mean, I feel like that's the gist of what the article is saying. Do you agree, disagree, anything you want to add?
Oh, I don't think it's a fair comparison, mostly because, well, you're comparing indie games to independent movies, and those aren't exactly the same things. In general, my idea is that indie games, or at least these small budget games that he's talking about mostly, I mean, this is mostly bordering on the Steam Direct garbage up to, you know, about mid-range on quality for indie games, because indie games do go above he was talking mostly about the $10 sub price tag. This is more like the student film area to me, instead of a full independent movie.
Okay.
Where these are, yes, there are studios here, but a lot of them are passion projects. A lot of them are games that are made in spare time for people. This is their full-time job. So I'm not sure if, comparing this to movies is a very apt comparison.
Yeah, as far as I know, there's nobody who makes movies in their spare time. Like, if you're going to make an indie movie, then you're going to put together a crew and a cast and all that jazz. Spend a couple of months or so filming and doing everything. I've actually worked on a couple of indie movies when I was in college. I had a friend who was a film major. And
and how many of those do you have to have certain bits blurred if it's going to be put on YouTube?
All of them. I actually starred in one of his indie movies, and then the rest of them I just worked as crew because I'm a really bad actor, guys. Really bad. I told him that too. I was like, I'm a bad actor.
You know that you're bad whenever you flunk out of an indie movie.
Yeah. I either way overact everything or just... I mean, I'm a bad actor. I took one theater class when I was a kid. That's all of the experience I have. But anyway, so I've worked on a couple indie projects, indie film projects, and you spend 2 or 3 months shooting the whole thing, then another month or two editing the whole thing, and then you turn it in for your project at school, or you submit it to a film fest, and it goes up, and people ooh and ah or boo, and that's it. And nothing that I ever worked on became a commercial project. It was all film projects or passion projects, but it
was also the full-time job for those people.
Yeah, for that amount of time, that was what they did. They were working on that movie, sun up to sundown, 40 hours a week or more.
Meanwhile, an indie developer, comes home from work and works on their project for a couple hours, coding or doing a little bit of art in the meantime, maybe during their break, sketch on something. It's not a fair comparison to begin with, is it?
No, it's not. Even in the paid realm of indie movies. I mean, most indie movies that go on to be successes and make money typically become sort of those cult classic movies, or they get picked up. Like John Wick, for example, was an indie movie project that was a combination of a passion project and a personal project between some different actors and things. And it was really high quality, and a movie studio picked it up, and now it's getting its own cinematic universe. There's John Wick 2 came out recently, and there's another movie coming out set in the John Wick universe. It's like... and
John Wick 1.5.
Yeah. John Wicky, where you just sit at the hotel that's in the movie and talk
I
think
think John Wicky, they pull the audience to fill out the universe. And
John Wick may be not so great of an example because Keanu Reeves was one of the main people behind getting that movie
made.
made.
I mean, comparing that, it would be like Dr. Horrible.
Yeah, I think Dr. Horrible would be a pretty good comparison too. But I mean, Dr. Horrible was popular and made money, and it's, through contracts and things like that to put it on streaming services. I guess my comparison with John Wick is more like these classic game devs going to Kickstarter. The bigger ones, like the Castlevania guy, or
Director's Cut from Penn Jillette.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an independent movie that was made through Kickstarter, but and that was still a huge project. That wasn't something that he was doing all that much in his spare time.
Yeah, or Laser Team from Rooster Teeth. That might be a little bit bigger scale, but still, it's the same sort of thing. They kickstarted the movie. It was an independent production. It actually didn't do very well in theaters outside of the RT fan base because it's not that great of a movie. It's a bad movie, and in some places it's so bad it's good, but in general it's just a pretty bad movie. But anyways, I digress. We're talking about movies now.
Yeah.
Welcome to the film portion of the podcast.
Yeah, grab your popcorn. So
anyways, I think I disagree on pretty much everything that he said in terms of like his opinions. I mean, I'm not saying like I don't necessarily think he's wrong. I just have a different viewpoint than he does because
let's agree to disagree.
Yeah.
I'm almost wanting to make that a VGL commandment.
That's a pretty good one actually. I think a lot of these games that are super cheap though are games that you would consider like, I don't know, the trash, like the popcorn trash of other genres. Like the visual novels is I think the easiest one to make this comparison to.
Yeah,
there's a lot of cheap.
Well, hell, we talked about one earlier.
Yeah, there's a lot of cheap visual novels popping up, and you think, oh, that's a problem, blah 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 blah. But you go look at like romance novels or whatever that you can buy for $4.
The Harlequin.
Yeah. I mean, there's tons of examples of that in other media, and I think
also,
just as gaming continues to mature, you're gonna get those sort of things.
And also, the visual novel is also a really good comparison because a lot of these games are built around the same tool or two, and it's just putting assets into it. Which, it sounds horrible whenever you say it like that because there's the whole subgenre of the asset flipper, usually with the Unity engine, which there was a very interesting talk about asset flippers and how engines are viewed in one of the recent Creating Crowbar podcasts. How people kind of scoff at the Unity engine because so many asset flippers have used the free version of Unity and it broadcast, this is a Unity game at the very beginning of this absolutely piece of garbage.
Yeah, but there's a lot of great games that have been designed
Kerbal.
Using Unity too. Yeah, Kerbal, Hearthstone was made in
I believe
in
Firewatch.
Unity. Yeah, I think Firewatch is too. But like they use the nice paid version and don't have to say it's a Unity game.
Yeah, exactly.
The VGL pod, or not VGL pod, that's us, VGL podcast. The co-optional podcast had that exact conversation as well a couple of months ago.
Yeah, and I think it's as Steam Direct brings more and more of the trash indie games in, it's going to be more apparent that there may be a bit of a problem with free Unity, how it's perceived. And it sounds like a completely unrelated topic here, but it's really not because all these very, very cheap games brings down the average, and that's what the key point of this is. The first paragraph is, an average indie title these days is priced at $8.72 on Steam. During the last Steam summer sale, the price went down to a mind-bogglingly $4.63, and yet the average sales are at their lowest price at 21,000 copies.
I don't think that's true. I mean, it might be true. Like if you take all indie games and average them together.
That's the thing.
But
well, he's talking about in massive general numbers, and this is it wasn't Steam Direct at this point. I mean, Steam Direct is kind of the boogeyman right now, and partly rightly so, but partly not. Where if you average out 100 and a 0, you average to a 50. Right?
Yeah. I think I think the average, whenever you take a look at sort of like, okay, what are the your sort of popcorn trash games? What are your student projects that these people are trying to make up a quick buck on? Like once you get all the sort of the junk out of the way and you get to the sort of the good, the interesting games, the ones that are, you know, well thought out and put together and advertised and all that jazz, I think your average game price is probably going to be somewhere closer to $20 to $25.
Okay,
which feels about right for most indie games in general.
Well, I think it really also depends on the scope and the age of the game. That's also something that's not really considered here.
That's true.
Now, I'm on the Steam store page, games under $5. Okay, I have 2 games here that are on sale, and they're both hexacells, so we'll just disregard those. Dungeons of Dreadmore, a pretty old roguelike, but also a very niche title. That's $4.99. VVVVVVVV, or
yeah.
That's $4.99, but also a niche title. It's a very difficult platformer with an Atari aesthetic. Pony Island, another niche title. Quake, which is just an absolutely ancient game.
Yeah.
So I think some of these are being, it's bringing down the average. Let's see, Guacamelee. Well, that's $15, but it's on sale right now for $5. So.
Yeah, and Guacamelee's several years old at this point too.
Yeah, it's had 3-4 different editions.
Yeah,
I mean it's starting to get close to what Street Fighter 2 is. Five Nights at Freddy's. There you go, $5. YouTube bait.
Yeah, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. It's on sale for $3 right now. But I mean that game's 4 years old,
and it's also a very short title.
Yeah.
So I think a part of this is. Oh, well, here you go. General Jousting, $5. But I think some of this is, just niche titles that has to stand out somewhere, and they can't really compete with, okay, well, we're going to be a $15 title, but, there's another game that's very similar to it that, is $10.
Yeah.
Which, partly it's coming down to just how the Steam store is an absolute mess of trying to find something.
Yeah.
Well, here, Railroad Tycoon 2 Platinum, $5.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these are older titles as well, and that's another flip side of this is just as games age, unless it's an Activision game, the price goes down.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with the general sentiment that he's making, like the very broad point of, sometimes indie games undersell themselves because they want to try and sell more copies, and they could probably justify charging a little bit more. Like, I agree with that very overarching point. Like, indie games should try to find what their appropriate value is and sell at that. And they're in some ways selling themselves short if they don't.
Yeah, but on the flip side of that is that you're going to be lost in a sea of indie games, and you have to try to get as many sales as possible.
Yeah, I mostly just disagree with the methodology and some of the some of the more specifics of it. Like, I get the overall sentiment, but I feel like I'm extrapolating a bit. And honestly, I might be improperly interpreting what he's saying, because it seems pretty poignant.
And almost a little inflammatory as well.
Yeah, the title definitely makes it seem a little bit more.
I will admit that I did click on this for the title, and it is a bit clickbaity to begin with. But yeah, I'm just going through this. What the Box, a $5 game. It's essentially a hide and seek. It's a multiplayer only title. $5. And there's really no player base for it. A Normal Lost Phone, a mobile port. So, for $3. So, I could definitely see where he's coming from, looking at these and saying, well, these are some great games that are at the sub $5 range. But, a lot of them are here for a reason.
Yeah. Like Deep Space Waifu. $1.39, and you know what? That might be too much for this game.
Well, what about Save Jesus? 49 cents.
Save Jesus?
Yeah, he's 75% off right now. Turns out Jesus does save and take half damage. Hey, but here's the thing: is that you could get Save Jesus even full price, a lot cheaper than Make America Great Again, the Trump presidency.
Yay! That is my level of enthusiasm and interest on that topic tonight. So yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add. I agree with the overall sentiment. I disagree with the methodology, and I disagree with some of the finer or more specific points that he's made. Ultimately, though, I mean, it's up to these devs to make that choice. Like, do we, sell for less, sell for more? What type of game are we making, and how much money do we realistically think we can get for it? And as someone who's not a game dev and has never developed anything in his life, aside from that rash that one time.
Yeah, but some ointment cleared that right up.
Yeah.
It just makes you a carrier, though.
Yep. So yeah.
I do think that he's looking at this from a angle that makes it a little bit more, or the problem worse than what it is, because he's not considering the part-time game dev. Yes, there are a lot of independent game devs that do it full-time, but I do think in the sub $10 range, which seems to be his big deal, and the fact that he applauds Jonathan Blow for selling his thing at, what was it, $40? It's kind of I think he may have picked the wrong game there. What about you?
Maybe,
because that doesn't, maybe it's just me, but The Witness didn't seem like one of those games that really stood up for the price tag.
Yeah, I just don't know much about The Witness. I mean,
it's overly pretentious, also known as a Jonathan Blow game.
Is that puzzle game?
Like with all the lines. It's essentially a line puzzle game over and over again.
Yeah.
On an island. Yeah, that's the one that he's applauding for the price tag.
Sorry, go ahead.
Of all the games, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me picking a point that is a little bit unfair.
I don't know. It's marked as not interested on my wish list, and not on my wish list. So
one of 3 games it isn't.
Yeah, one of the few.
Well, I think we thoroughly beat that topic to the ground.
I think so. So let's move on to go beat something else. The For Honor tournament, or the most recent one, was rife with bugs and exploits.
Yeah, that's my title. Because there wasn't really a good overarching title, so I made one this time.
Yeah, I mean, basically, For Honor is a buggy mess that Ubisoft won't, or hasn't, or doesn't care to fix, and the person who won the tournament did it by basically exploiting a glitch where you can make other players fall down, and then
no, that's not even the exploit that he used.
Oh, was that not him? I mean, I know that was one of the people.
There was. There was so many exploits, and granted, the article that I chose only had 3 clips. There was a couple more that was floating around, and I imagine if you go watch the full tournament with the Twitch chat on, it would be a glorious, glorious mess. But his exploit was that if you timed a certain attacks a certain way, they became now on unblockable.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it here. Okay, so basically, he's timing it correctly to un-target lock his opponent, which makes his follow-up, makes the attack unblockable as long as you've got the timing right.
Yeah, and he won. Congratulations.
Yep.
This entire tournament was designed around trying to promote For Honor because its player base is non-existent.
Yeah, it was below 10,000, I think. It might even be lower than that now. Let's go look.
Yeah, well, I was about to. Well, to be fair, Devil's Advocate, this is just the Steam copies, which as of 26 minutes ago is right at 4K. So 4,000 with a peak of 6,500, which honestly is about 6,000 people more than what I thought. But they also had an all-time peak of 45,000.
Yeah.
And if you look at their all-time chart, it fall like a rock, I believe is the proper term for this.
Yeah.
It's For Honor is the reason why I'm leery of the pirate game that Ubisoft is putting out, which is essentially the pirate or the boating section from Assassin's Creed Black Flag as a multiplayer segment. For Honor is just such a mess, and it's like every time they try to do something with it, they choose the wrong thing. They decided they wanted to do a multiplayer tournament to try to show the best players out there. And they got a group that chose exploits that lost due to bugs that just cheated. And I guess cheated is the proper term for this, over and over and over again to victory. There's one clip in one of the articles that is pretty much Gog is down, what was it, 2/3 of his health? And he kept doing this charge attack that is not unblockable.
Yeah, and it basically stun locks an opponent. If you can do it fast enough, you can just keep smashing them into a wall and knocking them down. And then you can get in one or two attacks before they stand up, and then you can do it again and just repeat it ad nauseum until you win.
Matter of fact, also a little bit of devil's advocate is that the recent peak of 11,000 is also during their free weekend, which I'm just couldn't even be bothered with. It wasn't worth the download time. We tried this when it was in beta, and it had the same issues. Server stress test. It wasn't a true beta because it was, like a week or two before the game released?
Yeah, something like that.
We tried it, and there were players teleporting. There were... who was it that we had in our group that was constantly disconnecting?
It was Ghost Shark.
Ghost Shark. I knew it was either Ghost Shark or Spaceman, but I couldn't remember which one. But he was constantly disconnecting. I saw people teleporting. It was clear that the game wasn't ready for prime time. Yeah. So I just didn't pay much attention to it, and it looks like we were right. And it looks like the rest of the player base did as well.
So I'm trying to see if I can find a source for player numbers anywhere else besides Steam. Yeah. Even on sometimes you can get them for consoles and stuff. And I've discovered that they removed the player count that was in game after it consistently dropped below 20,000 concurrent players.
Gee, I wonder why.
So now you can't tell how many people are online, except by using Steam Spy.
Well, there was also reports of during the free weekend it taking ages for people to find games, which is not a good showing to begin with.
Yeah.
And that's what this really was this was a small tournament. I mean, to me and you, if we won $10,000, that's a fair chunk of change. But as a tournament grand prize, that's chump change.
Yeah, that's not very much.
I mean,
there's tournaments that regularly have 50,000 or more for games that you've never heard of.
No. Total Biscuit runs a bigger tournament every month for StarCraft 2. To be fair, he's also sponsored, but he's also not a multinational AAA developer. Well, and I should say Ubisoft is for at least the time being. We'll see how that hostile takeover works out that they've been fighting off for a couple of years now.
Oh, I thought that they won the... I thought that was over.
No, it's still ongoing.
Oh, okay.
Why do you think they're desperately trying to get For Honor to be a thing? They're trying to... Ubisoft has this history of having games that are functionally maybe there, and then trying to fix them later. And I think it's finally starting to catch up with them with For Honor, because the Division had the same problems. The last, how many Assassin's Creed games had huge problems on launch and were eventually fixed, until the point that they saw their numbers drop so much that they actually took a break for a year. Which I know, take a break for a year.
Yeah. It's not very long, really. Looks like the Division's doing all right now.
Well, the Division
players.
the Division got a bit of a boost whenever they released essentially the flavor of the month DLC. The survival mode DLC. They got a lot of players back for that.
Yeah, they also fixed a lot of issues with the game that people were having.
Yeah, true, but they want a lot of players back with that. It's hard to really say that was the sole thing, but it definitely helped them out, particularly since Battle Royale has this nomadic player base that's still looking for that one game, which maybe PUBG is it. I don't know. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Or PUBG. Yeah. Or Chicken Dinner Winner or whatever.
It looks pretty decent. I want to check out PUBG, but I'm not going to pay for it. At least not right now. I've got several games that I need to play right now and get through, so...
I have a couple.
Anyways. Yeah.
What would you think if Ubisoft saw what was happening at the tournament and canceled the entire thing while people were there? I wouldn't have blamed them, honestly.
I wouldn't have blamed them, but that would have been
that would have been even worse PR.
Worse?
I mean,
yeah.
But then again, they're not getting good PR from the tournament anyway.
No.
It probably didn't help that they had, at least in one of those clips, potentially the most douchey looking of players I've ever seen.
Yeah. Sitting there with his sunglasses on.
Chewing his gum, and what was that? Some sort of blazer that he was wearing?
Yeah.
I mean, just sometimes you shouldn't have a face cam.
Nope. I agree with that sentiment.
Even though I do feel for that one guy that lost due to the sheer fact that the land wasn't even.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the glitches is that if you
get a knock, I believe it's some sort of knockback. If on uneven land you fall down.
Yeah, it treats the player like they've fallen off of a ledge or something, and so they fall down. Stupid.
Yeah, okay, maybe you should work on fixing your fucking game before you have a tournament to pay attention to your shitty fucking game.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I never took a marketing class. I don't have any sort of formal training in this, but if you're going to draw attention to yourself, try to have some confidence in your product. To be fair, I do realize I am saying this on the VGL podcast.
I have confidence in our product. Our product has less bugs and glitches in it than a Ubisoft game.
On the episode that I was recording the wrong microphone.
I mean, that's one. Ubisoft games have hundreds, millions even. Hundreds of millions.
Billions and billions of bugs.
Billions.
We probably ran this into the ground. It's just one of those things that I saw this going around. And, it's just too delicious almost. I hate reveling in the fact that For Honor is such a piece of shit. Okay, maybe not completely, but it's one of those things that it definitely shouldn't have gone to this. If For Honor lost its player base naturally, that's one thing. It's a game that's not there. But the fact that there's a tournament for a game called For Honor and it's won by a cheater and has just so many exploits and bugs shown off in the gameplay, there's just a certain amount of irony going on.
Yeah. I agree. All right. I don't have anything else to add to this. It's one.
Let's move swiftly along then.
All right. This one's gonna be a quick little one, but BattleNet is back, but now it's called Blizzard BattleNet.
Oh, so you're skipping ahead?
Did I?
Yes.
No? Oh, whoops. I'm looking at the just the news topics, not the way it's in the show notes.
Oh, this is because you paste the things in the incorrect order, and I have to fix them whenever I go to do the show notes. So
there we go.
That's bug number 2.
I swapped it around. See, I fixed our bug. I swapped it around. So now we're going in the correct order.
See, why can't Ubisoft do this with a simple copy and paste? You know,
yeah,
just copy all the code from a working game and put it into your broken game.
There you go. That's all you got to do, right? That's how game development works.
Yeah, this is easy. We should make an indie game in our spare time.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Make it a musical game.
Yes, where you have to sing. Okay. So I fixed it, and now BattleNet is the next topic.
Okay.
So yeah, BattleNet's back.
So are you going to quote me my tweet again?
Yeah, so Rage made a tweet about this a couple of days ago, I guess, and I read it and liked it and forgot that I read it and felt like I remembered reading it in like a news article or something. And I told it to you like you had no idea what it was. And you were like, that's my tweet.
Oh.
Whoops.
I was just sitting here thinking, that's my tweet. You like this?
Yeah.
Of course I know about it. I wrote it.
Totally blanked on it. Basically, yeah. Do you want to do the honors, or do you want me to do it?
Well, are we going to do the entire history? Because this is the second name change in, what, about 3 months?
Yeah. So it was BattleNet forever. And then
it was BattleNet first. Then they changed it to. Sorry, I was about to make a Batman Forever joke.
Ha ha ha. No, yeah, it was BattleNet for forever. I mean, years.
Yeah,
and then a few months ago,
when originally created, it was BattleNet. I mean, it's been BattleNet since StarCraft 1, I think, was the first game for it, or was it like Warcraft 2 or something like that? I mean, it's been in the 1990s.
Yeah.
Way back in the distant year of 1995, when rap was king.
When rap was
good. And when everyone wore fluorescent colors. And hats were never worn straight.
Overalls. For some reason, trendy city kids in the 90s wore overalls. Anyways, yeah, it's BattleNet for forever. Then a few months ago, they changed it to the Blizzard app.
And then immediately announced Destiny 2 was going to be on it.
Yep.
Because, that's a Blizzard game. That's such a weird timing on that. Could you imagine if they announced Destiny 2 was going to be on BattleNet instead of the Blizzard app? How much less confusion there was going to be.
Yeah. And now they've changed it sort of back to BattleNet, but it's Blizzard BattleNet. Which, what you said was that it feels like a teenager who just refuses to admit that they were wrong.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Johnny. You're always going to be Johnny. Nobody's going to call you Steve.
Fine, Mom. Call me Johnny Steve. Stevie John. Yeah, it just feels so childish. Like, why couldn't they have just said, you know what? Our fan base didn't like this. They wanted us to stick to our tradition, so we're listening to our fan base and we're going to go back to BattleNet.
What's even more hilarious is, you don't have the official announcement on here, but as the show notes, I'm going to have to go dig that up, I guess. But on the official announcement, they were talking about how they'll listen to their fan feedback.
Yeah.
And the comments were disabled.
Of course they were.
To be fair, Blizzard comments are usually kind of toxic anyway, but it's just we're going to listen to fan feedback, but not give you a way to actually provide fan feedback. Now, shut the fuck up. Blizzard BattleNet is the greatest name ever. We made BattleNet great again.
Oh. I went and got you your link already, so you're good. You don't have to go find it.
It's just... Blizzard just hit that rebellious age, I guess. Or maybe that's a midlife crisis. That was my other idea, that they're having a midlife crisis. They don't want to be Battle.net anymore, even though everybody always will know them as Battle.net. They got a toupee and a sports car, and they're going to space with Destiny 2.
Toupee and a rocket going to space. A convertible rocket, like from
The Martian.
The Martian, yeah. It's our second Martian reference this show. One more, and we summon Matt Damon.
Matt Damon! I'm sorry, but Team America World Police has ruined Matt Damon for me. Or at least the name Matt Damon.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was that. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah, it's just such a ridiculous thing in general. And it makes me think Blizzard is a bit out of touch. Why would they change from such an iconic name anyway? That's something that I've never really understood. It's like Valve saying that Steam is no longer going to be Steam. It's going to be the Valve app.
Yeah.
It's the level of stupidity.
Maybe they just felt like they were big enough and popular enough that they could get away with it, and their fans would just go along with whatever.
Also known as the Overwatch fan base?
Yeah. To be fair, if I was them, I would think I could get away with it too. Their fan base will eat up and defend anything that goes on. So,
well, obviously, Valve has learned this lesson that no, they won't.
Yeah. So I assume Blizzard just thought they could get away with it and nobody would really fight them on it. But apparently this one thing fans care about. So, yeah.
Speaking of changes from Valve, we have Steam group invite changes.
Indeed.
A very welcome change, I might add. This is something from a couple weeks back, just a little bit more time filler, so we don't have to do a second discovery queue. Well, at least unless one of us has absolutely terrible queues. Jared.
I do have a history of bad queues.
Even though mine was just rife with F1s at one time.
Yeah, but that was funny.
True. But the main change on this is trying to crack down on the Steam scammers usually it's CSGO stuff, but it's some Dota stuff and some TF2 stuff as well. Just trying to keep group invites from just going rampant. And I really don't have a problem with this. In order to get a group invite now, you have to have it from a friend.
Yep, which I don't have a problem with that either. That makes sense.
I was about to say, what, you don't have a friend?
You got a friend in me.
Quickly, let's get to that $1,000 milestone so Jared never sings again.
Yep.
But then you have to keep it there.
Yeah. Otherwise, we're gonna do a musical. Unless they really want one, in which case they'll bump it up to 1,000 and then drop it back down on purpose. But I would have fun doing a musical. Even if it was terrible.
The musical podcast.
I'm sure there's one out there. Maybe I'll look for it later.
Oh, God. This is just a little fluff topic. Not a lot to talk about. This is just trying to really crack down on all the scammers and all of the advertisers as well, because that's another thing, is that these group invites typically will advertise their random gambling site either in the Steam name or in the group name, which it makes me wonder just how the hell they get away with it for so long.
Valve just doesn't
care,
doesn't put any oversight in place for this, or at least they haven't before. So, I used to regularly get scammers and group invites to all of this stuff. I've blocked many users in Steam groups over the years. So, I'm very happy.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder why this wasn't a thing to begin with. But it may have, maybe this is one of those cases where Valve is run by engineers and programmers and not the actual player base. Yeah. It's the same problem Google has a lot of times, where there's features that doesn't make sense to the average user, but to the person that designs it, it makes perfect sense. Like the Gmail inbox, you have all these handy tabs, but you can't use them for anything except for what they're specifically designed for. You can't customize them whatsoever.
Yep. But I do like the tabs. I use the tabs.
It's just, the same thing where, the group invites were fine for, the average user, but people that have something of value in their inventory, which are typically the CSGO player, I think is the number one. Probably number two would be Dota 2, with number 3 being TF2. Which, numbers in there makes it a lot more complicated than it really sounds like, doesn't it?
Yeah. Also, trading cards back in the day when they were new.
Yeah.
Or newer. Because they were a lot more...
I occasionally still get a couple people for trading cards.
Yeah.
But that's mostly due to having some of the 2013 trading cards still in my inventory.
Nice, I guess.
Oh, I have one that's worth $1.33 right now.
Oh, there you go.
That's going to be my retirement plan. I'm going to wait for it to go up like the Bitcoin.
I mean, $1.33, that's 2 games earlier from some of the super cheap games we were talking about.
Yeah, but see, I could only afford half the truck presidency, so, only 4 years. And I just heard you shudder.
Yeah. I'm standing, actually, at my desk. I almost fell down.
But even the other, 2013 cards are, 15 to 25 cents each.
Yeah.
So, and I'll occasionally get someone that, is building that, those old badges, because the summer sale and winter sale badges are limitless. So, they could get as many of the cards as they can and build up their rank. And there's people that have... what is the top ranking person right now?
Don't know. It's a good question. Is there even a max limit or a max level you can get to?
Theoretical limits. Because, there's only so many cards actually out there. And there's also only so many games that generate cards. And remember, you can only do 6 badges or 6 levels of badge on every single game. You could have the 5 standard and the 1 foil. That's why the summer sale cards are such a big deal. Let's see. Highest Steam level. Top Steam levels. Steam database. Oh, this is handy. Ooh, wow. El Kabong shows up. Do you want to guess? Level, not name, of course.
Yeah. I assume it's in the triple digits. What, are you scoffing at me because it's higher than triple digits?
Triple digits would barely get you in the top 10.
Wow. I was thinking like 500, but apparently I'm way underestimating.
500? Oh, well, let's scroll down. Being at level 500 wouldn't get you in the top 100.
Jeez. I thought I was doing good to beat level 30, whatever. I mean, I know you're in the 40s, right?
Yeah, I believe I'm 42 now. 41, which I got 40 during the summer sale, and the weight of my library pushed me over to 41.
Right. Yeah, I'm at 33.
Which me going to 40 was mostly of an experiment just to see how the booster pack drop rate improves, and it's knocked a day off so far.
That's good, I guess.
I went from average of 8.57, I think it was. It was just over 5 to an average of right under 8. So overall, it's knocked about a day off. But then again, my data for my above 40 is still very dim.
Right. Awesome.
What, you're not going to guess a number?
Oh, right. 1,327.
Okay, well, I'll give you the rank. If you were ranked 1,327, you've been ranked 4th.
Wow. Okay, so what is it? What's the highest?
2,367.
Jesus. That feels like impossible. How much money have they spent?
Well, let's put it this way. I'm going to give you their name in chat. I want you, if you could go into your Gmail, your personal Gmail, which you get your card, all messages from. See if you find that name. Because whenever I did it, I sold 2 cards to them.
Well, I mean, I regularly clear out my Gmail, so I doubt it.
But... Oh, well. I just archive everything. But, yeah, they according to reports, or people trying to figure it out, they spent over $20,000 on cards.
Damn.
No. I haven't done the qualifier yet.
Okay.
In the last summer sale.
God damn. I mean, I guess if I had that kind of money and I could just, like,
people
spend it on whatever I want.
Yeah, people figured out that they were constantly buying cards to the point where they were hitting the market limits.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if I had that kind of money, I'd spend it and not give a shit.
Personally, I would build a space program. Yeah, and here's the fun part, is that rank 2 is 1,574.
Dang.
Yeah, and rank 100 is 513.
Yep, good for those people. Maybe someday I'll hit 50.
I love how naive you are. Well, it's in the triple digits. Dope. Oh.
Some of the top people were in the triple digits. Some of them.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I believe, let me just double check this. Yeah, they have their Steam Summer badge. Well, they were given a special Steam Summer badge. And it has over 100,000 levels on it.
Well, good for them.
You're just mind blown, aren't you?
I wish I had that kind of money.
Think of all the hookers you'd have with that.
The blackjack hookers.
But granted, then you wouldn't have all the Steam trading cards.
I mean, I sell all the Steam trading cards anyways.
Yeah, I'm just... I'm looking at number 2. Number 2 has a Steam Summer Sale 2017 rank of over 30,000.
Good for them. I'm very proud of them.
It blows my mind that they're able to actually make that many badges, let alone, get the cards for that. But, it's, bringing all the way back around to our topic. It's the train cards and everything else is the reason why the invites had to be locked down, because, you were getting fishers that were sending people to these really, really questionable at best gambling sites, which I'm really shocked that those gambling sites haven't been locked down as well, because there's only so many web hosts out there that could build something like that, right?
Yeah.
I'm really shocked that they haven't been more trouble. I only heard really about those couple of YouTubers that really got in trouble with the gambling sites, and that's been it, really.
Yeah, so far, I think so. At least that I know, that I've heard of. Okie dokie.
Well, if you're done getting your mind blown.
Yep. Let's take on over to Community Corner, where we have 2. 1, I mean, they're about the same thing, same topic. emails from Jim, good old Jimmy Jam. In response to, I think this is about our value of games, but he does start talking about grinding a lot more than just the...
Yeah, I think I may have triggered him when I brought up the, how it's a little hard to determine a value of games because pure hours isn't a fair assessment because you may not be enjoying all those hours because some of it may be grind. I mean, just look at GTA Online.
Yeah, well, but some games do grind well.
Yeah.
So, it just comes down to how they design it and I think what their motivations are for doing it.
So, shall we kick this off?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we do apologize for not getting to this last week. I blame Jared.
Yeah. I'm starting to feel kind of sleepy right now, but that's okay. We're in the final... we're in the third half of the show, so...
Wake up.
That level of... Or that tone in your voice just makes me want to go to sleep. All right, here we go. At a basic level, entertainment products like video games allow you to pay money for enjoyment. Exactly how the value of the transaction is calculated is very subjective. Progression is an important part of most games. Keeping things held back behind unlocks or levels can make a game more fun overall and enhance the sense of progression in a game. Proper pacing in a game requires players to unlock things at a rate that is neither too fast nor too slow. If everything is unlocked from the beginning, it's essentially a sandbox game like Minecraft Creative Mode. When progress is too slow, it becomes a grind. The amount of enjoyment per unit time drops and may even become negative. Normally, a player would abandon a game that is not fun to play, but they might continue if there's a promise of more fun later. Grind is when a game becomes a chore or transitions into work. Games as work, there's several interesting things about that. This is going off topic, but hey, that's what we do.
What, we go off topic? Never.
I believe Extra Credits has done a video or two about games as work, and I read a book about gamification and games as work, and there was a recent study that came out that talked about video games and work, and there were some issues with it, but one thing that they did say is that the sort of daily grind in a lot of MMOs has replaced that traditional work sense that people used to have whenever they worked in more physical, like factory type jobs, where they would do the same thing every day. Like that got kind of ingrained into our culture.
Well, I was thinking more like using games as a workspace, sort of like how Second Life was. Well, back when that was more relevant, or going to a more fictional sense. Well, Ready Player One had it, but I was also thinking of the anime Summer Wars, when the main characters worked at I believe it was an ad agency or something in the game itself, and Summer Wars had this sort of VR MMO. Well, it wasn't VR, but it was presented as VR to the viewer. That was all across pretty much every device known to man, and it was just a step down from the Matrix.
Interesting.
It's a really good movie, and it talks a lot about how interconnected we are and how kind of dangerous that is, actually.
Yeah, it's got benefits, but it's also got some drawbacks for sure. But anyways, yeah, I had that thought as I was reading that just then. All okie dokie.
Should I take a paragraph or two?
You can. I don't mind to read the whole thing though.
I hate grindy games because I don't have a lot of time to play all the games I would like to. Intentionally, grindy games have developers who deliberately decided to waste my time. I'm not against all instances of grind. There are times where it is perfectly acceptable, like adding hundreds of hidden items in a game for the player to collect. It's also justifiable in free-to-play games that need something to motivate players to open their wallets. I hate it when developers lock major pieces of game behind grind walls. This also applies to arbitrarily required levels up to certain reasonably competitive online games, like For Honor. RPGs often fall into the grind trap when they try to extend gameplay. As you level up, progress gets slower and slower until you eventually need to grind to be able to survive in later levels. Diablo 2 had a good solution for the grind by making the entire game accessible and beatable in less than 15 hours. The player then could play the game over in Nightmare difficulty and eventually Hell difficulty if they wanted. This gave players a challenge if they wanted, but it didn't lock the story or game areas away from people without the time to slog through the higher difficulties. And that's something else that we really should talk about is replay of games, as in the entire game just takes one step up. This is once again off topic. It almost feels like an artificial lengthening of gameplay to me. What about you?
And what do you mean? Like giving games like a new game plus mode, or
a new game plus mode, especially on a shorter game. Well, for example, Borderlands 2, not exactly a short game, but you're encouraged to constantly replay it, go further and further up the bullet sponginess of the enemies.
Right.
It feels a very cheap way to do it. I mean, I definitely understand the appeal to it, but it has to be, to me, make sense. It has to give some sense of progression other than, okay, well, I'm suddenly doing more damage with all the enemies. I'm doing twice the damage, but all the enemies just got 10 times the health. That's not satisfying to me. What's more satisfying is if the enemies got more abilities, or I started running into different types of enemies. So maybe Game Plus mode isn't exactly the best way to do it, at least in my opinion. But it's also a very easy way to do it for people that want to do it, I guess. It's one of those odd things where maybe I'm not the general populace. I don't know.
Yeah. I've always tended to enjoy New Game Plus modes.
It really depends on if it allows you to do something different. Like, Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, where in order to get certain endings, you had to do New Game Plus mode with a high-level character to be able to beat an enemy that was otherwise unbeatable.
Right. I like it when New Game Plus modes add interesting little things. Like, for example, Naval Ops. All of the Naval Ops games have a New Game Plus mode. And they do have that sort of score attack element to them. You get bonuses for playing a New Game Plus, but also, like, whenever you go through the second time, it basically just becomes a sci-fi game. All of the things that you fight are, like, laser-based and missile-based, and it does become more difficult, but it does fundamentally change the way you have to play the game in order to stay competitive or stay basically to win, to be able to survive.
Yeah, maybe Diablo is just a bad example for, and Borderlands 2 by extension, for how I would prefer New Game Plus mode. But maybe that's just me, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because we have talked about how we aren't the average gamers to begin with.
Yeah, well, I mean, I also remember, like, the Ace Combat series has New Game Plus, and you just go through and continue to complete missions and unlock the rest of the craft. So I don't really know if that's better or worse or whatever, but although I guess that is a grind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see, where were we?
Right there.
I see it. MMORPGs took the grind of RPGs and turned it up to 11. I really don't need to say much about them because they speak for themselves. Grind in games took a really dark turn when free-to-play and mobile games introduced microtransactions. Pay-to-skip grind is one of the most awful things to happen to regular games. You can argue for its value in free-to-play games, but not in paid games. So, just recently, it was this week actually, in this week's Jimquisition, Jim took on the Warner Brothers adding microtransactions and loot boxes to Shadow of War.
I think this was not a pleasant conversation.
It was. He actually made a really good point that I had never thought of it before. Like, whenever companies do this, whenever they put pay-to-skip mechanics into a pay-to-play game, they're saying that their game doesn't have value, and it's actually more valuable for you to spend money to not play their game. So you shouldn't be buying the game in the first place.
That is a good point. That the game isn't compelling enough to or is only fun in the end game.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good argument.
So I really liked that argument. I'd never heard anyone make that argument before. But I mean, basically saying, like, if that's what your game's going to be, I think I'm just going to stop buying your games, because what you're telling me is that I should buy your game and then pay to skip all the way to the good part of the game instead of being encouraged to play to get there. So I'm just not going to waste my money or my time anymore.
Yeah, the problem is most people don't see that.
Yeah.
They see it as, oh, I get to skip the boring bit and get the most bang out of my most fun for the few hours, instead of going through the kind of boring bit where I'm not a walking god. And now I get to go fuck the spider lady. Or did you see that article going around?
No, I saw that. Yeah, Shelob is actually a pretty lady.
Yeah,
I don't want to fuck her though, because she would turn back into a spider.
I mean, we learned our lesson from Brothers of Tale Two Sons.
Yeah, I don't like spiders.
It's just one of those things that if they made this not be a Lord of the Rings game and let them just go batshit with the lore, it'd make a lot more sense, I think.
Yeah.
But they're trying to, use characters and do weird things. And just pissing off the fans.
Yeah. Okie dokie, continuing on. Consider the typical exchange of value when paying for games. You pay money to be able to play a game. You can pay more money for more content or more game time. Paying to skip the grind flips the transaction to a negative. You're actually paying to play the game less, rather than grind and get whatever resources or progress that is gaining you. Instead, you're paying to not play that part of the game. So, I guess Jim's think alike, because he's basically making the same point, I think. Maybe just not quite as simply or as elegantly as Jim Sterling did.
Or loudly.
Or loudly. And with less swearing. Collateral damage from this...
I'll make up for it. Fuck. Balls, fuck.
Good old swear words there. Balls.
I'll wait. Jim's British, or at least that Jim. So, bollocks.
Bollocks. Cock. Bollocks. Bell end. You're a bell end. Anyways, collateral damage from this terrible business model includes things like removing the console and blocking mods. This makes games worse overall. Here we go. GTA Online is a great example of a game made worse by microtransactions and excessive grind. It has been stunningly profitable at the expense of players. A key observation I made when reading up on how to earn money efficiently in the game is that people were making arguments for buying shark cards by comparing it to work, specifically by calculating how much you would have to grind to earn equivalent in-game money compared to buying shark cards. The result was a direct comparison between your hourly wage at your job versus how much you would have to pay for shark cards to avoid wasting an hour of time grinding. The argument is that you're better off working for X hours to buy shark cards instead of grinding for 4X hours in-game. It's a really sad situation that the comparison would even cross someone's mind. Did I mention that I hate grind? And then he sent us another email.
He hates grind almost as much as a barista.
Then he sent us another email that was an addendum to the first. And it begins, an addendum for the previous email. Consider a real-world analogy to video game grind. A game can be compared to a theme park. The admission is equivalent to buying a ticket, and there are various fun things to do at the park. Rides like roller coasters are really fun parts of the game, but are often accompanied with long lines, aka grind. Long lines in theme parks are an unfortunate reality due to the limits of how many people can go on rides at a time. However, video games have no such scarcity. Imagine if you were at a theme park and every ride had a 2-hour wait. Now imagine finding out that the wait is entirely unnecessary and only there so you can't do everything in one day, thus having to buy multiple tickets. How pissed off would you be?
Pissed off.
Now imagine that the park sells fast passes that skip a line entirely and let you ride right away. Imagine if the park took the 5-minute pre-ride themed walk and turned it into a slow 2-hour wait specifically to sell fast passes. This is exactly the situation with games that lets you pay to skip grind. That's also known as Disneyland.
Yeah, but you have to add the... 100 degrees plus and 95% humidity. Pretty much, your balls are immediately stuck to your leg, and they are not coming off until you get home. If you're lucky.
It's very uncomfortable when that happens. When my balls get stuck to my leg. No, thank you. I just won't go to Disney.
Yeah, why did they have to build Disneyland in the worst place for the summer?
Is Disneyland in California or is Disney World in California? I always get that mixed up. And then the other one's in Florida.
Well, I just don't care.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, they're both miserable places in the summer. It's just one was built in the 50s and nothing worked. But to be fair, the Pirates of the Caribbean didn't kill the people when that broke down.
I was not expecting a Jurassic Park reference in this episode. Well done. Well done.
I got a good laugh out of that one.
Still no Matt Damon, though. We need another
Matt
Matt Damon reference. Or another Martian reference to summon Matt Damon. So yeah, that was Jimmy GM's letter. Excellent letter, sir. Once again, sorry we didn't read it last week when you sent it in, but I was wiped. And it kind of works too, because now I've played GTA Online, and I agree with a lot of your sentiments about the grind. So.
Yeah, pretty much the same here. Grind does have its place, but it has to be entertaining. And if you're just sitting there mining, unless you're Jared, most people aren't going to enjoy that.
It's very relaxing. So good. No Man's Sky now has all of that that's fun in spades, and there's not a lot of annoying or background stuff that I have to concentrate on, so I can also listen to podcasts.
Well, you know what would be really fun? Sitting on a park bench with Robin Williams.
I get that reference too. That's Good Will Hunting, but that's not The Martian. So unfortunately, we either need two more Good Will Hunting references. Yeah.
No. You said Matt Damon, so.
Well, he's not here, so we must have done something wrong.
Oh, damn. Now we're going to have to perform the sacrifice all over again.
Man, Good Will Hunting is such a good movie.
I have trouble watching Robin Williams movies these days, though.
I do too. I don't want to talk about it. There's enough sadness in the world.
Even more so since we lost Robin Williams.
Indeed. So let's go talk about our tweets, and maybe there won't be sadness in those.
Well, we only had one full tweet, but we also had 2 questions of the week. So, question of the week number 1. What is your favorite game bug/glitch? Be cool. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines character creation bug. You could glitch the game to assign more starting point statistics and have level 20 stats when you're only level 1. Chemist. All the crazy shit in speedruns. As a programmer, I love seeing how you could abuse the code to the point of arbitrary code execution. Which, watching games done quickly is just amazing for some of the glitches that people are able to pull off. Kyle, the Sims Demon Baby glitch. And Mel's bodies moving around in Bethesda games scared me when I walked into a cool corpse in Fallout, and it flew past into the ceiling, which Chemist has a response. I remember having to use the console command from the wiki under the section, if the quest item /NPC clips through the floor. Yeah, for me, I think it's Bethesda.
Yep, fair enough.
I mean, in Oblivion, I had this thing for a while where I would use the dupe glitch to fill random houses with watermelons.
Yeah, that was fun. Send 10,000 cabbages rolling down the street. Just crash the game.
But I prefer watermelons because they were nice and smooth. And to be fair, that's not a Reddit meme just yet. That's just coconuts.
I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. Do-do-do-do.
And now you're fucking them all in a row.
Do-do-do-do.
But let's see. another glitch I ran into Oblivion where NPCs would, you know how they would turn to look at you whenever they talked? Yeah, before the Skyrim, one of the few improvements I actually really liked in Skyrim was, the NPCs would still do their thing, but still talk to you.
Yeah.
In Oblivion, they do that kind of zoom in and they turn to you. Well, for a while, I had it where they would turn to me, but only turn their head to face me, no matter what direction I'm looking at them from. So I would walk up behind a guard, and if I had a fine or something, and he would turn to look at me, he would just turn his head 180 degrees and go full exorcist on me. It was a little disconcerting. I've had corpses move around as well, like bells. Probably my favorite one in a Skyrim. Granted, I didn't really play Skyrim all that much because I prefer better games. My favorite one from Skyrim, though, was all the dragons flying backwards that I saw videos of.
Yeah. My favorite glitch or glitches would have to be from Halo 2, all the super bounces for multiplayer. Basically, there were some errors, like some flaws in terrain, and with the way that crouching and jumping worked, you could basically create a spring that you could use to launch yourself to really high places on the map if you knew exactly where all the right points were and how to trigger the glitches. And so I always liked to play with my friends in LAN and stuff because they didn't know how to do them. And so I'd be like, yeah, let's play snipers on this.
So you're one of those friends.
Yeah, I'd be like, yeah, let's play snipers on this map, and then I would do the super bounce and get to an unreachable place, sometimes even outside the map, so they couldn't hurt you, but you could shoot back into the map. Good times, good times.
Yeah, I remember there was videos of something similar to that in Team Fortress 2. It wasn't a super bounce, but it was a exploit with the engineer. They would be able to put their teleporter in places where they could either clip through the map or trap people. So there was several videos, especially when TF2 originally came out, of just engineers trapping people, and they couldn't shoot out, and just their own team was just all in this one little cage. And the thing is that there is a suicide command that you could do. You could take the cyanide pill. But, I guess people don't realize that, maybe? I don't know.
They can orange monkey eagle.
Yes.
To the one person in our audience who knows what I'm referencing. Good. Go us. Unless nobody else gets it, in which case, nah. It's fine. Sorry. Anyways. I derailed.
Moving swiftly along to question of the week. A. What is your opinion on paid gambling in video games? Lock boxes, card packs, etc. Jim, I can imagine what this is going to be, huh? At its best, it ruins games. At its worst, it gets children addicted to gambling. I don't know why parents aren't outraged. I'm going to guess that parents either don't realize that it's there or just don't care.
Yeah.
Which is sad. I mean, you've ran into this in your therapy, so have you ran into parents knowing where their money is going like this?
One parent who knew, and he also was guilty of it. So most of the other parents don't know. It's just I give my kids their allowance, and sometimes they want to buy these cards or whatever, so I buy them for them, and they're spending it on their game, I guess. And they just don't know. But I have had one parent who did know, and he also was doing it.
So not exactly the greatest role model.
No, definitely not. I immediately requested that those kids be taken out of the house. No, I didn't do that. Unfortunately, I can't do that for that sort of offense.
You've issued them a PC. Unfortunately, then they found Team Fortress 2 and loot boxes there.
Or Overwatch.
Or Dota.
Anyways, were there more answers?
Yeah, I just got derailed. I know, shockingly enough. Ghost Shark. Free to play, sure. devs gotta eat. Too much of it is pretty scummy, though. Paid games, I'm less happy about it. And we did have one tweet from Million Lights. Yeah, we didn't scare him off with all the ear rape. Breaking news. Picture of Jared leaked on non-gag. PETA blames a VGL podcast of animal abuse.
Yeah, I like that picture.
Yeah, which, the 5 cents is about the same price of a Steam trading card, so.
Indeed. I do want to go back to the other question of the week about loot boxes. Like, if they were properly regulated, if they were regulated like gambling, I don't think I would have any problem with them at all.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that there's no promise of what's in them whatsoever. You're trusting the developer, and some of these developers are a little scummy, and some of them are a lot.
Yeah, so if they were properly regulated, they probably wouldn't bother me at all. I don't know, maybe if kids could still do it, but to some extent, you can't like completely stop kids from doing that. But you know what I mean. It's less easy for kids.
Yeah, but the problem with that is that there's no internal force really trying to push for any internal regulation.
Yeah.
And that's where my analogy with the ESRB came in, was that there was an internal force because, I'm using the royal we here. We as gamers didn't want the government regulation because there was a lot of fear of censorship, particularly because a lot of this was driven from the outrage of Mortal Kombat, which, Mortal Kombat driving outrage these days is just laughable. But, back when the ESRB was founded, that was part of it, was that, just trying to keep government regulation out. But right now, and also the big box stores was a big driving force, but now physical sales are not as big a deal. And there's multiple storefronts, so it doesn't really matter that much. In order to have a real driving force, you have to get Apple, Google, Steam, EA, Ubisoft to all agree. And that's just, PC and mobile. That's not even accounting for Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft for the consoles. To all want to crack down on this. And I don't see there being an internal force. And there's not the outrage that there was back then because, we pretty much came up with, either the parents don't know about it or don't care, or they're doing it themselves as well.
Yeah.
And they just take it as a loss.
Yeah. Also, I don't think that this is a political climate where I want politicians enacting this regulation.
And that's the flip side of it, is that, in order for the politicians to have a good law for this, they have to be knowledgeable about it. And we have politicians that are willfully ignorant and proud of their ignorance of technology. And that's not a climate that I want to have the regulation developed in. Otherwise, we hit another DMCA.
Yeah.
Where it becomes a weapon because of how poorly constructed it is. Even though it was built under, DMCA is probably not the best way to, best example, but built as a tool to use to protect people. Granted, the DMCA was more about the record companies and the film companies wanting to protect themselves from, the internet, but that's getting off topic.
Again. Okay. Were there more tweets? I kind of went back.
That was it. There was one other talking about a direct message to you, but left that out.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. To leave it out.
So, moving on to Discovery Queue?
Indeed. Discovery Queue, the music. You see what I did there? You see?
Well, my first game is very appropriate because it has loathing in the title.
All
West
right.
of Loathing. This is... I never played Kingdom of Loathing, so a lot of the charm about this game is probably lost on me. But I've heard a lot of people talking about this, so yeah, I'm throwing it in. What the hell?
Okay.
It's essentially they call a slapstick comedy stick figure Wild West adventure role-playing game. And
Okay.
it's all stick figures.
I think I've seen that game.
Yeah, I mean, you've
Before.
probably seen Kingdom of Loathing. West of Loathing is brand new, and it's being suggested because similar to games you played, Maze. Very positive reviews in the top sellers and recommended by Total Biscuit. So there you go.
Huh. It's interesting. I need to reload the page to see some of the stuff didn't load. But this game is Dinosis Survival. Dinosis Survival is a TPP. What is TPP? TPP shooter. With dinosaurs. Third person shooter?
I've never heard that term.
But they said TPP, third person perspective shooter, maybe?
I guess.
Yeah, I've never.
I mean, either that or it involves the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a little confused, huh?
It looks interesting. I mean, a survival game with dinosaurs.
Well, put it on the list, I guess.
It's got.
I mean, well, the TPP is the one thing that I can support Trump on. Hey, broken clock, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Sunstrike 4. This is an RTS. It has mixed reviews, so I'm not sure about this. It's a $50 game, so it's full priced, and there's a lot of people saying that's not worth that, which, yeah. But it's a single player, it looks like it has a lot of single player content on it as well. It doesn't look too bad. I mean, granted, looks can be deceiving, and it's all about gameplay, especially for RTS. At least I'm pretty sure this is RTS. I mean, it does tag it as RTS. I am getting a little bit of a Company of Heroes vibe off of it. Maybe it's just we don't have a lot of World War II stuff these days, which seems so weird saying we don't get a lot of RTS or a lot of RTS either. But I'm not sure about the price tag. It's something to add to the wish list though to check out some other time, I guess.
This looks.
For some reason, Sunstrike seems familiar, but I can't place it. This is the fourth one. It's from Calypso, so. Yeah, the Tropico guys.
Yeah. So
I'm blanking on the. It seems familiar, but I'm not placing it. And it looks like most of their. They have a lot of videos on this game. Looks like it's more squad based than anything else, though, which does make me feel like a Company of Heroes, which isn't a bad thing. Smaller groups.
Yeah.
I'm just watching some of the videos, and it does have a definite Company of Heroes vibe to it. Granted, it doesn't look like it's built around covered mechanics, though. Definitely one to check out, though, right?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what this game is. It's called Pharmacon. Let me grab a link to pop down. It looks like a combination of a puzzle game and maybe like a programming game. You have got a drone and you're programming the drone on the fly to effectively fight monsters and zombies. But in the video, it looks more like a puzzle type game than a programming style game. But
yeah, especially with grabbing pieces of the code.
Yeah, but then there's another menu where it's like there's beams of light that you're adjusting inside. And you can see it on one of the screenshots. Actually, it's the third screenshot. I don't know. It looks neat. It looks really neat, I have to say.
Well, I'm getting good stuff on my Discovery Cube. My first 3 are all worthwhile.
Oh, I've skipped a few. I had a couple of crappy ones.
My next one is Crash Day Redline Edition. It's being suggested to me because I like action multiplayer arcade games, apparently. But Crash Day, the explosive cult racing multiplayer racer, is back. Retooled and remastered. I mean, it looks like a really over-the-top arcade racer with a lot of explosives.
Explosives.
Explosions! And it does have a track editor, which looks like it's pretty simple to build. Which, yeah, is nice. It looks interesting. I mean, I'm not too certain about it once again, but yeah, it's something to check out eventually.
I'm trying to decide if I like this or not.
It's like my entire queue is at least decent.
I'm gonna put this on the list. New Frontier Days Founding Pioneers.
Oh, never mind. Here's one that I don't care about. Mostly because I don't really care for basketball.
At first I thought this was like some kind of like Facebook style clicker game or something, but it's not. It's like a little town management game with maybe some visual novel, choose your own adventure style stuff in it. It's hard to tell based on the screenshots, but I don't know. Looks neato.
Neato. Yeah, I could definitely see how you get a Facebook vibe from this. Wow.
$10.
It needs to go under 5 to be worth anything. Got a flight sim. IL-2 Stromwick Battle of Stalingrad.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. You do your game and then I'll do this.
Well, do you need a moment?
No,
a cold shower?
Maybe. I'm really excited about what I'm looking at right now.
Well, remember, if you're excited for 4 more hours, consult Gabe. But this looks like, well, doesn't look like it's just flight sim. If they're showing some tank stuff in here as well, but you know, I don't mind a good battle sim like this. It seems really interesting. The only problem is that it doesn't really show it shows what looks to be a lot of almost cutscene like material. But Jared, there's a train.
Choo choo. I love trains.
Yeah, it looks like there's they have some marked as dev version, which who knows what that means. But yeah, this looks interesting. I'm not sure about. I'm getting a lot of interesting, but not sure. The question is if it has single player content or if it's multiplayer only, because I do know it has multiplayer content, but if it could be single player, let's see. It's the continuation of the legendary IL-2 Stromwick series. Never really heard of that. Guess it's not very legendary.
Have you seriously never heard of the IL-2?
But maybe I'm just blanking on it.
Okay.
Which is very possible.
Good games. They're one of the best old school sort of World War II flight sim games that I've ever played.
I've not played too many World War II flight sims, so maybe that's why, I played a couple, but those were mid-early 90s.
Yeah.
Mostly. So, maybe it's just I played it, but never really paid attention to the name of it.
Yeah.
It does have a single-player campaign. That's what I was wondering about. But yeah, it looks very pretty. Assuming these are proper screenshots.
Okay. So, remember when we did pitch a game a couple of weeks ago?
Yes.
And I said that I wanted sort of a realistic, semi-realistic transport type game in space? I present to you Interstellar Transport Company.
Well,
it's basically exactly what I asked for, or pitched as a game idea. I am so happy. It's releasing today on early access. So I might if it's not too expensive, I might just out of like sheer giddiness and like, I don't know, taking a plunge, purchase this game.
Down.
We'll see if it's not too expensive.
Well, on the flip side, I think I have to mention this one since it came out. I got Tiny Rails.
Nice.
A mobile port that you spent a lot of time talking about a few months ago.
Yeah.
No idea how it's going to do. It looks like it's on early access though, so I'm not sure if they're, if this is the base game and they're bringing in more content, creating more content, or what's going on with it.
Yeah, I've actually seen and looked at this game. On the PC version, they've taken away a lot of the mobile stuff, like wait around for your thing to upgrade. And
well,
like,
considering it's $10,
yeah,
I would hope so.
And there's no more premium currency. They've added some additional interactive features to make it more game-like. So
they're doing a lot of work with it.
Yeah, they're actually, I guess, trying to make something more akin to like a proper port, as opposed to just slapping a mobile game on Steam and adding the PC tax.
Yeah, which, I have no problem with it. They're actually doing work on it because, going from mobile to PC is a very different beast.
Yeah.
And I do believe that's the end of my discovery queue because I'm just going forward and I'm not seeing anything else of real interest. But hey, once again, I picked up 5 games in my discovery queue.
Yeah, I had 4. That's a pretty good week for me.
Granted, why do I have I probably played that one series and I just blank on it,
Yeah,
because for a while...
Sturmovik series?
Yeah, plus it's not English name, so I probably just saw and just didn't pay much attention to it.
Yeah, its earlier entries are great. There was sort of a middle period, like of 5 or 6 years where I didn't play any of them, but every one that I've played has been really good.
Well, this is a new one. Looks like I think it's out now. Yeah, it is. It's a full price title though, with more than a little bit of DLC. That's actually a shockingly high amount of DLC. When did this come out? Okay. Okay. It's not a new one. Yeah, I was about to say it's not a new game, so it's been out for a while. Wonder why I got it now. Because usually the discovery queue, sticks to at least either, the last year or two. That's a weird pull, huh?
Yeah. Maybe it's because you played Simple Planes.
Maybe.
Now it's pulling some flight games in.
It also has VR support.
Woohoo!
Maybe someday I'll get excited for VR. It just still is at that point where it's a novelty to me.
Well, I mean, this would be a game.
This would be actually a good game for it.
Yeah.
It's just, there hasn't been that system seller for me.
Right.
Speaking of selling things.
Right. Welcome to the portion of the podcast where I go first, although I've had several of those going first this week. But I'm here to tell you about my stuff. Shill my stuff. If you want to
sell
follow
it
me,
even.
Yeah, maybe even sell you something. If you want to follow me on the YouTubes, subscribe to me. You can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. I would greatly appreciate it. Coming up on the channel this week, Divinity.
Shocking.
The podcast.
Shocking.
The other podcast that I'm on, Straight as a Pretzel, with one of our dear listeners to this show, Kimmis. We try to have episodes out on Mondays, and then I pop them up on my channel a few days after they come out. I got caught up last week on the most recent couple of episodes, so the one that's coming out this week is new, and we, like I mentioned earlier, we spent a good deal of the episode talking about a little more in depth about the relationship system and how that Mass Effect handles people being gay and trans and all that stuff. So if you want to hear some more about that, Straight as a Pretzel. You can get that at straightpretzel.wordpress.com, or you can find it on my YouTube channel. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can just go at JMA4707. It's been an extra political weekend with all of the stuff that's going on.
You political this weekend? Nah.
Also, there were a lot of tweets about No Man's Sky, so you get whatever comes up. There's no telling what I'm going to tweet about, so yeah, you can, again, at JMA4707. If you want to watch me stream games on Twitch, you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. Apologies about last week. There was a mix-up, and it turns out I had to go get my mother-in-law from the airport Friday, so I was unable to stream. But there shouldn't be any mix-ups this week, I hope, because I like streaming. I want to stream.
Any clue what we're going to play?
No. There's never a clue what we're going to play. And I still haven't sat down and remade the games list for stream nights. I don't know how I lost a Google Doc, but I did.
That takes talent.
I probably accidentally deleted it on my the folder on my PC where it syncs up, and then it was gone forever. And then, let's see. I'm talking a little bit more, trying to shill more things, and that's got me all messed up because I'm usually pretty short and sweet. But I've done everything except for Steam. So
that's a first.
So if you want to be my friend on Steam, you can send a friend request to jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests from you lovely people, and everyone truly has been lovely that has sent me a friend request and spoke to me.
And if you wish to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password this week is Sojourn. Sojourn.
It's a good word, but not a funny word.
Well, simple. You're on the Sojourn.
Nope. Good try. Good try. Good effort.
Well, I tried. Can't make you trick all the time. Plus, I had the better one earlier.
Yeah.
Just Jurassic Park out of nowhere.
That was good. That was good.
Well, if you wish to see some of my other good stuff, boy, you out of luck. But if you wish to see all the rest of the stuff, I do 3 Let's Play series over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage. I have The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing 3 still ongoing. I'm honestly really just slogging through that at this point, seeing what the story does, because gameplay-wise, it's just not there. They simplified it way, way, way too much. I have RimWorld that's modded all to hell. And, well, let's see. My kitchen caught fire in the last episode, if I recall correctly. That was fun. Oh, and some caribou broke into the base and started trying to kill everyone.
All right.
What can I say? RimWorld has some wacky stuff that goes on at times. And then occasionally, people die.
Good for them.
Hey,
I guess
at least they get their escape.
Yeah.
And unlike Groove, forced to carry around a crate forever. I haven't gotten Groove yet. Actually, where is he on my name list? I would have to dig out the name list, which requires me to reach over here and grab it. Groove's not too high on the name list, unfortunately. Did have Spaceman. Both his parents showed up. And yeah, he has a weird family. Let's put it this way. His dad was in his 70s, and his mother was a 16-year-old.
Okay. Interesting.
Sorry, Spaceman. But yeah, RimWorld. Weird shit. And then, of course, Divinity Original Sin is coming up this week as well. Going to have next week a odd episode where I have to split one recording to 2. I think I know how I'm going to do that. It's still going to be a little weird, but yeah. I blame my co-host.
And I wonder who that is. Oh, wait.
If you want to catch all that stuff, including this podcast, which appears there on Fridays, as well as the Sunday Sampler, which I'm hoping to do another one this week. I've taken 2 weeks off, just kind of resetting and hoping I get something actually decent to play. Because you've heard what happens when Jared plays everything he gets. It's utter shit. You can find all that over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage, or if you wish to see me tweet somewhat randomly and find what Jared's going to tell me about a few days before he tells me about it, you can find me over at Gaming with CR on Twitter. No, I'm not going to let you live that down just yet. Oh. And speaking of website and addresses, since I didn't do our proper outro to the community corner, probably just due to shock that we actually had content for it, you can email us, vglpodcast@gmail.com, with your letters, voicemails, and gaming-related topics, or just tweet us, VGL Podcast, on Twitter. If you wish to help pay for this absolute madness, you could contribute to our Patreon campaign, patreon.com/VGL Podcast. Or if you wish to see the show notes and see if Jared remembered the timestamps, or if I have any weird typos like that one visual novel, you can find it over at vglpodcast.podbean.com, or just go to Google Play or iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever podcasts appear. Well, at least ones that Jared's put up. If it shows up somewhere where Jared hasn't put it, that's impressive.
Proliferation.
Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, as well as our Discovery Key music, Doobly Doo. You can find his work at Incompetech.com, and...
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye-bye now.
Doobly Doo.
Bye-bye.
And Jared, too.
Also, enjoy your long episode this week, guys. We did it. We did it.